the third part of Henry VI. With the death of the Duke of York. Actis primus, scona prima. Alarumt. Enter Plantagenet, Edward, Richard, Norfolk, Mountague. Warwick and soldiers. Warwick, I wonder how the king escaped our hands. PL, while we pursued the horsemen of Y North. He slyly stole away and left his men. Whereat the great lord of Northumberland, whose warlike ears could newer brook retreat, cheered VP the drooping army and himself, Lord Clifford and Lord Stafford all abreast, charged our main battle's front, and breaking in, were by the swords of common soldiers slain. Edward, Lord Stafford's father, Duke of Buckingham, is either slain or wounded dangerous. I cleft his bower with a downright blow. That this is true, father, behold his blood. Mount and brother, here's the Earl of Wiltshire's blood, whom I encountered as the battles oined. Rich, speak thou for me, and tell them what I did. Plan, Richard hath best deserved of all my sons. But is your grace dead, my lord of Somerset? Nor such hope har all the line of Ione of Gaunt. Rich, thus do I hope to shake King Henry's head. Warwer, and so do I, victorious Prince of York, before I see thee seated in that throne, which now the house of Lancaster usurps. I vow by Hohen these eyes shall newer close. This is the palace of the fearful king, and this the regal seat, possess it York. For this is thine, and not King Henry's heirs. Plant, assist me then, sweet Warwick, and I will. For hither we ha broken in by force. North, we'll all assist you, he that flies shall die. Plant, thanks gentle Norfolk, stay by me my lords. And soldiers stay and lodge by me this night. They go VP. Warwer, and when the king comes offer him no violence. Unless he seek to thrust you out perforce. Plant, the queen this day here holds her parliament, but little thinks we shall be of her counsel. By words or blows here let versus win our right. Rich, armed as we are, let's stay within this house. Warwer, the bloody parliament shall this be called. Unless Plantagenet, Duke of York, be king, and bashful Henry deposed, whose cowardice hath made versus by words to our enemies. Plant, then lo me not, my lords, be resolute. I mean to take possession of my right. Warwer, neither the king nor he that lows him best, the proudest he that holds VP Lancaster, dares stir a wing if Warwick shake his bells. I'll plant Plantagenet, root him VP who dares. Resolue thee Richard, claim the English crown. Flourish, enter King Henry, Clifford, Northumberland, Westmoreland, Exeter, and the rest. Henry, my lords, look where the sturdy rebel sits. Ewan in the chair of state, belike he means, backed by the power of Warwick, that false peer, to aspire VNTO the crown, and reign as king. Earl of Northumberland, he slew thy father, and thine Lord Clifford, and you both ha vowed ruinage. On him, his sons, his forrights, and his friends. Northam, if I be not, Hoens be ruined on me. Clifford, the hope thereof makes Clifford mournin. Steele. Westham, what shall we suffer this? Let's pluck him down. My heart for anger burns, I cannot brook it. Henry, be patient, gentle Earl of Westmoreland. Clifford, patience is for poltroons such as he. He durst not sit there had your father leud. My gracious lord, here in the Parliament, let versus assail the family of York. North, well hast thou spoken, cousin Beats. Henry, know you not the city fours them, and they haw troops of soldiers at their beck. Westham, but when the Duke is slain, they'll quickly fly. Henry, far be the thought of this from Henry's heart, to make a shambles of the Parliament House. Cousin of Exeter, frowns, words, and threats. shall be the war that Henry means to VSC. Thou factious Duke of York, descend my throne, and kneel for grace and mercy at my feet. I am thy sour rainy. York, I am thine. Exet, for shame come down, he made thee Duke of York. York, it was my inheritance as the earldom was. Exet, thy father was a traitor to the crown. Warwer, Exeter, thou art a traitor to the crown. In following this usurping Henry. Clifford, whom should he follow but his natural king? Warwer, true Clifford, that's Richard, Duke of York. Henry, and shall I stand and thou sit in my throne? York, it must and shall be so, content thyself. Warwer, be Duke of Lancaster, let him be king. Westham, he is both king and Duke of Lancaster, and that the Lord of Westmoreland shall maintain. Warwer and Warwick shall disbrow it, you forget that we are those which chased you from the field, and slew your fathers, and with colours spread, marked through the city to the palace gates. Northam, yes Warwick, I remember it to my grief, and by his soul, thou and thy house shall rue it. Westham, Plantagenet of thee and these thy sons, thy kinsmen and thy friends, I'll haul more lius. Then drops of blood were in my father's veins. Cliff, vrge it no more, lest that instead of words, I send thee, Warwick, such a messenger as shall ruin his death before I stir. Warwer, poor Clifford, how I scorn his worthless threats. Plant, will we show our title to the crown? If not, our swords shall plead it in the field. Henry, what title hast thou, traitor to the crown? My father was as thou art, Duke of York. Thy grandfather Roger Mortimer, Earl of March. I am the son of Henry the Fifth, who made the Dauphin and the French to stoop, and seized upon their towns and provinces. Warwer, talk not of France, sith thou hast lost it all. Henry, the Lord Protector, lost it and not I. When I was crowned, I was but 9 months old. Rich, you are old enough now, and yet methinks you loose. Father, tear the crown from the usurper's head. Edward, sweet father, do so, set it on your head. Mount, good brother, as thou loust and honour'st arms. Let's fight it out and not stand coiling thus. Richard, sound drums and trumpets, and the king will fly. Plant, sans peace. Henry, peace thou, and you King Henry low to speak. Warwer, Plantagenet shall speak first, hear him, lords, and be you silent and attend to you too, for he that interrupts him shall not lee you. Hen, think'st thou that I will low my kingly throne, wherein my grandsire and my father sat? No, first shall war vn people this my realmy. I and their colours often born in France, and now in England to our heart's great sorrow, shall be my winding sheet. Why faint you, lords? My title's good and better far than his. Warwer, prowett Henry, and thou shalt be king. Henry the Fourth by conquest got the crown. Plant, 'twas by rebellion against his king. Henry, I know not what to say, my title's weak. Tell me, may not a king adopt an heir? Plant, what then? Henry, and if he may, then am I lawful king. For Richard, in the view of many lords, resigned the crown to Henry the Fourth, whose heir my father was, and I am his. Plant, he rose against him, being his sour rainy, and made him to resign his crown perforce. Warwer, suppose, my lords, he did it vn constrained. Think you 'twere prejudicial to his crown? Exet, no, for he could not so resign his crown, but that the next heir should succeed and reign. Henry, art thou against v's Duke of Exeter? Exet, his is the right, and therefore pardon me. Plant, why whisper you, my lords, and answer not? Exet, my conscience tells me he is lawful king. Henry, all will rule from me and turn to him. Northam, Plantagenet, for all the claim thou lay'st, think not that Henry shall be so deposed. Warwer, deposed he shall be in despite of all. Northam, thou art deceived. 'Tis not thy southern power, of Essex, Norfolk, Suffolk, nor of Kent, which makes thee thus presumptuous and proud, can set the Duke VP in despite of me. Clifford, King Henry, be thy title right or wrong. Lord Clifford vows to fight in thy defence. May that ground gape and swallow me aliu, where I shall kneel to him that slew my father. Henry, O Clifford, how thy words rue you my heart. Plant, Henry of Lancaster, resign thy crown. What mutter you, or what conspire you, lords? Warwer, do right vnto this princely Duke of York, or I will fill the house with armed men, and our the chair of state where now he sits. Right VP his title with usurping blood. He stamps with his foot, and the soldiers show themselves. Henry, my lord of Warwick, hear but one word. Let me for this my lifetime reign as king. Plant, confirm the crown to me and to mine heirs, and thou shalt reign in quiet while thou liest. Henry, I am content, Richard Plantagenet, enjoy the kingdom after my decease. Clifford, what wrong is this vnto the prince? Son. Warwer, what good is this to England and himself? Westham, base, fearful and despairing Henry. Clifford, how hast thou inured both thyself and versus? Westham, I cannot stay to hear these articles. Northam, nor I. Clifford, come cousin, let these tell the Queen these news. Westham, farewell faint-hearted and degenerate king, in whose cold blood no spark of honour bides. Northam, be thou a prey vnto the house of York, and die in bands for this vn manly deed. Cliff, in dreadful war mayst thou be overcome, or liu in peace abandoned, and Warwer, turn this way Henry and regard them not. Exeter, they seek ruinage and therefore will not yield. Henry, our Exeter. Warwer, why should you sigh, my lord? Henry, not for myself, Lord Warwick, but my son, whom I vn naturally shall disinherit. But be it as it may, I here entail the crown to thee and to thine heirs for ewer, conditionally that here thou take an oath to cease this seual war, and whilst I liu, to honour me as thy king and sour reigny, and neither by treason nor hostility to seek to put me down and reign thyself. Plant, this oath I willingly take and will perform. Warwer, long liu King Henry, Plantagenet embrace him. Henry, and long liu thou and these thy forward sons. Plant, now York and Lancaster are reconciled. Exet, accursed be he that seeks to make them foes. Senate, here they come down. Plant, farewell my gracious lord, I'll to my castle. Warwer, and I'll keep London with my soldiers. North, and I to Norfolk with my followers. Mount, and I vnto the sea from whence I came. Henry, and I with grief and sorrow to the court. Enter the Queen. Exeter, here comes the Queen, whose looks bewray her anger. I'll steal away. Henry, Exeter, so will I. Queen, nay, go not from me, I will follow thee. Henry, be patient, gentle Queen, and I will stay. Queen, who can be patient in such extremes? Ah, wretched man, would I had died a maid, and newer seen thee, newer borne thee son, seeing thou hast proved so vn natural a father. Hath he deserved to lose his birthright thus? Hadst thou but lewd him half so well as I, or felt that pain which I did for him once, or nourished him as I did with my blood, thou wouldst he who left thy dearest heart blood there, rather than who made that soige Duke thine heir. and disinherited thine only son. Prince, father, you cannot disinherit me. If you be king, why should not I succeed? Henry, pardon me, Margaret, pardon me, sweet son. The Earl of Warwick and the Duke enforked me. Qui enforked thee? Art thou king and wilt be forked? I shame to hear thee speak, ah, timorous wretch. Thou hast viendone thyself, thy son, and me. And Gian viento the house of York such head, as thou shalt reign but by their sufferance, to entail him and his heirs viento the crown. What is it but to make thy sepulchre, and creep into it far before thy time? Warwick is chancellor, and the Lord of Calais. Stern Falconbridge commands the narrow seas. The Duke is made protector of the realmy. And yet shalt thou be safe, such safety finds. The trembling lamb, inuirond with wallows. Had I been there, which am a silly woman, the soldiers should ha' tossed me on their pikes, before I would ha' granted to that act. But thou preferst thy life before thine honour, and seeing thou doest, I here divorce myself, both from thy table, Henry, and thy bed, till that Act of Parliament be repealed, whereby my son is disinherited. The northern lords that ha' forsworn thy colours will follow mine if once they see them spread, and spread they shall be to thy foul disgrace, and vitita ruin of the house of York. Thus do I loathe thee. Come, son, let's away. Our army is ready, come, we'll after them. Henry, stay, gentle Margaret, and hear me speak. Queen, thou hast spoke too much already, get thee gone. Henry, gentle son Edward, thou wilt stay me. Queen, I to be murdered by his enemies. Prince, when I return with victory to the field, I'll see your grace, till then I'll follow her. Queen, come, son, away, we may not linger thus. Henry, poor queens, how loud to me and to her son, hath made her break out into terms of rage. Ruined may she be on that hateful Duke, whose haughty spirit, winged with desire, will cost my crown, and like an empty eagle, tire on the flesh of me and of my son. The loss of those 3 lords torments my heart. I'll write viento them, and entreat them fair. Come, cousin, you shall be the messenger. Exet and I hope, shall reconcile them all. Enter. Flourish, enter Richard, Edward, and Mountague. Richard, brother, though I be youngest, do you me low. Edward, no, I can better play the orator. Mount, but I ho reason strong and forcible. Enter the Duke of York. York, why how now, sons and brother at a strife? What is your quarrel? How began it first? Edward, no quarrel but a slight contention. York, about what? Rich, about that which concerns your grace and v's. The crown of England, father, which is yours? York, mine boy, not till King Henry be dead. Richard, your right depends not on his life or death. Edward, now you are heir, therefore enjoy it now. By geoing the house of Lancaster low to breathe, it will outrun you, father, in the end. York, I took an oath that he should quietly reign. Edward, but for a kingdom any oath may be broken. I would break 1,000 oaths to reign 1 year. Richard, no, God forbid your grace should be forsworn. York, I shall be if I claim by open war. Richard, I'll prow the contrary if you hear me speak. York, thou canst not, son, it is impossible. Richard, an oath is of no moment being not took before a true and lawful magistrate, that hath authority o'er him that swears. Henry had none but did usurp the place. Then seeing 'twas he that made you to depose, your oath, my lord, is vain and frivolous. Therefore to arms, and father, do but think how sweet a thing it is to wear a crown, within whose circuit is Elysium. and all that poets feign of bliss and eye. Why do we linger thus? I cannot rest, until the white rose that I wear be dyed, ewen in the lukewarm blood of Henry's heart. York, Richard enough, I will be king or die. Brother, thou shalt to London presently, and wet on Warwick to this enterprise. Thou, Richard, shalt to the Duke of Norfolk, and tell him prely of our intent. You, Edward, shall vnto my Lord Cobham, with whom the Kentish men will willingly rise. In them I trust, for they are soldiers, witty, courteous, liberal, full of spirit. While you are thus employed, what resteth more, but that I seek occasion how to rise? And yet the king not privy to my drift, nor any of the house of Lancaster. Enter Gabriel. But stay, what news? Why comest thou in such post? Gabriel, the queen's, with all the northern earls and lords, intend here to besiege you in your castle. She is hard by with 20,000 men, and therefore fortify your hold, my lord. York, I with my sword. What, think'st thou that we fear them? Edward and Richard, you shall stay with me. My brother Mountague shall post to London. Let noble Warwick, Cobham, and the rest, whom we ha left protectors of the king, with powerful policy strengthen themselves, and trust not simple Henry nor his oaths. Mount, brother, I go, I'll win them, fear it not. And thus most humbly I do take my low. Exit Mountague. Enter Mortimer and his brother. York, Sir Ion and Sir Hugh Mortimer, mine Viancicles. You are come to Sandal in a happy hour. The army of the Queen mean to besiege Vise. Ion, she shall not need, we'll meet her in the field. York, what with few thousand men? Richard, I with few hundred, father, for a need. A woman's general, what should we fear? A march afar off. Edward, I hear their drums. Let's set our men in order, and issue forth and bid them battle straight. York, few men to 20, though the odds be great. I doubt not vincently of our victory. Many a battle hoar I won in France, when as the enemy hath been 10 to 1. Why should I not now hoar the like success? Alarum, exit. Enter Rutland and his tutor. Rutland, ah, whither shall I fly to scape their hands? Our tutor, look where bloody Clifford comes. Enter Clifford. Clifford, chaplain, away, thy priesthood saws thy life. As for the brat of this accursed duke, whose father slew my father, he shall die. Tutor, and I, my lord, will bear him company. Clifford, soldiers, away with him. Tutor, ah, Clifford, murder not this innocent child, lest thou be hated both of God and man. Enter. Clifford, how now, is he dead already? Or is it fear that makes him close his eyes? I'll open them. Rutland, so looks the pent VP lion arre the wretch, that trembles under his during pause, and so he walks, insulting arre his prey, and so he comes, to rend his limbs asunder. Ah, gentle Clifford, kill me with thy sword, and not with such a cruel threatening look. Sweet Clifford, hear me speak before I die. I am too mean a subject for thy wrath. Be thou ruined on men, and let me leave you. Clifford, in vain thou speak'st, poor boy. My father's blood hath stopped the passage, where thy words should enter. Rutland, then let my father's blood open it again. He is a man, and Clifford cope with him. Clifford, had I thy brethren here, their lius and thine, were not revenge sufficient for me. No, if I digged VP thy forefathers' graves, and hung their rotten coffins VP in chains, it could not slake mine ire nor ease my heart. The sight of any of the house of York is as a fury to torment my soul, until I root out their accursed line. And lo, not one aliu, I lee you in hell. Therefore, Rutland, oh let me pray before I take my death. To thee I pray, sweet Clifford, pity me. Clifford, such pity as my rapier's point affords. Rutland, I newer did thee harm, why wilt thou slay me? Clifford, thy father hath. Rutland, but 'twas ere I was born. Thou hast one son, for his sake pity me. Least in revenge thereof, sith God is erst, he be as miserably slain as I. Ah, let me lee you in prison all my days. And when I gee you occasion of offence, then let me die, for now thou hast no cause. Clifford, no cause, thy father slew my father, therefore die. Rutland, dig facient laudes summer sit ista tu a. Clifford, Plantagenet, I come Plantagenet. And this thy son's blood clowing to my blade shall rust vipon my weapon till thy blood, congealed with this, do make me wipe off both. Enter. Alarum, enter Richard, Duke of York. York, the army of the Queen has got the field. My Viencicles both are slain in rescuing me, and all my followers to the eager foe turn back and fly like ships before the wind, or lambs pursued by hunger-starved wallows. My sons, God knows what hath bechanced them, but this I know, they haw demeaned themselves, like men born to renown by life or death. 3 times did Richard make a lane to me, and thrice cried, Courage, father, fight it out. And full as oft came Edward to my side, with purple falchion painted to the hilt, in blood of those that had encountered him. And when the hardiest warriors did retire, Richard cried, Charge, and gee you no foot of ground, and cried, A crown or else a glorious tom, a sceptre or an earthly sepulchre. With this we charged again, but out alas, we barged again as I horseen a swan, with bootless labour swim against the tide, and spend her strength with our matching wars. A short alarum within. Ah, hark, the fatal followers do pursue, and I am faint and cannot fly their fury. And were I strong, I would not shun their fury. The sands are numbered, that makes VP my life. Here must I stay, and here my life must end. Enter the Queen, Clifford, Northumberland, the young prince. And soldiers, come bloody Clifford, rough Northumberland. I dare your quenchless fury to more rage. I am your butt, and I abide your shot. Northam, yield to our mercy, proud Plantagenet. Clifford, I to such mercy as his ruthless arm, with downright payment, showed VNTO my father. Now Phatone hath tumbled from his car, and made an ewening at the no one tied prick. York, my ashes as the phoenix may bring forth, a bird that will ruinge vipon you all. And in that hope I throw mine eyes to Hohen, scorning whate'er you can afflict me with. Why come you not, what multitudes in fear? Cliff, so cowards fight when they can fly no further. So dows do peck the falcon's piercing talons. So desperate thews, all hopeless of their leus, breathe out in Eucteus, gainst the officers. York, O Clifford, but bethink thee once again, and in thy thought o'errun my former time. And if thou canst, for blushing, view this face, and bite thy tongue, that slanders him with cowardice, whose frown hath made thee faint and fly ere this. Clifford, I will not bandy with thee word for word, but buckler with thee blows twice 2 for 1. Queen, hold valiant Clifford for 1,000 causes. I would prolong a while the traitor's life. Wrath makes him deaf, speak thou Northumberland. Northam, hold Clifford, do not honour him so much. To prick thy finger, though to wound his heart. What valour were it when a cur doth grin, for one to thrust his hand between his teeth, when he might spurn him with his foot away. It is war's prize to take all vantages, and 10-to-1 is no impeach of valour. Clifford, I so strews the woodcock with the gin. Northam, so doth the carney struggle in the net. York, so triumph theus vipon their conquered booty. So true men yield with robbers, so are rematched. Northam, what would your grace ha done vianti? Him now. Queen, brawl warriors, Clifford and Northumberland. Come make him stand vipon this molehill here, that wrought at mountains with outstretched arms, yet parted but the shadow with his hand. What was it you that would be England's king? Wast you that ruled in our parliament, and made a preachment of your high descent? Where are your mess of sons to back you now? The wanton Edward and the lusty George? And where's that valiant crookback prodigy, Dicky your boy, that with his grumbling voice was wont to cheer his dad in mutinies? Or with the rest, where is your darling Rutland? Look, York, I stain this napkin with the blood. That valiant Clifford with his rapier's point made issue from the bosom of the boy. And if thine eyes can water for his death, I jew thee this to dry thy cheeks withal. Alas, poor York, but that I hate thee deadly, I should lament thy miserable state. I prithee gree you to make me merry, York. What hath thy fiery heart so parked thine entrails, that not a tear can fall for Rutland's death? Why art thou patient, man? Thou shouldst be mad. And I, to make thee mad, do mock thee thus. Stamp, roar, and fret, that I may sing and dance. Thou wouldst be feed, I see, to make me sport. York cannot speak, unless he wear a crown. A crown for York, and lords bow low to him. Hold you his hands, whilst I do set it on. I marry, sir, now looks he like a king. Aye, this is he that took King Henry's chair, and this is he was his adopted heir. But how is it that great Plantagenet is crowned so soon and broke his solemnly oath? As I bethink me, you should not be king till our King Henry had shook hands with death. And will you pale your head in Henry's glory, and rob his temples of the diadem, now in his life against your holy oath? Oh, 'tis a fault too vn pardonable. Off with the crown, and with the crown his head, and whilst we breathe, take time to doe him dead. Clifford, that is my office for my father's sake. Queen, nay stay, let's hear the orisons he makes. York, she-wolf of France, but worse than Walloos of France, whose tongue more poisons than the adder's tooth. How ill-beseeming is it in thy sex to triumph like an Amazonian trull, vipon their woes whom fortune captuits, but that thy face is vizard-like vn changing, made impudent with VSC of Ewell deeds. I would assay, proud queen, to make thee blush, to tell thee whence thou cam'st, of whom Diriud were shame enough to shame thee. Wert thou not shameless? Thy father bears the type of King of Naples, of both the Sicils and Jerusalem, yet not so wealthy as an English yeoman. Hath that poor monarch taught thee to insult? It needs not, nor it boots thee not, proud queen. Unless the adage must be verified, that beggars mounted run their horse to death. 'Tis beauty that doth oft make women proud, but God he knows thy share thereof is small. 'Tis virtue that doth make them most admired, the contrary doth make thee wondered at. 'Tis government that makes them seem genuine, the want thereof makes thee abominable. Thou art as opposite to Uri good as the antipodes are VNTOVs. or as the south to the septentrion. O Tigre's heart wrapped in a woman's hide, how couldst thou drain the lifeblood of the child, to bid the father wipe his eyes withal, and yet be seen to bear a woman's face? Women are soft, milder, pitiful, inflexible. Thou stern, obdurate, flinty, rough, remorseless. Bidst thou me rage, why now thou hast thy wish? Wouldst hear me weep, why now thou hast thy will? For raging wind blows, VP incessant showers, and when the rage allays, the rain begins. These tears are my sweet Rutland's obsequies, and Ewry drop cries vengeance for his death. Gainst thee fell Clifford and the false Frenchwoman. Northam beshrew me, but his passions moves me so, that hardly can I check my eyes from tears. York, that face of his, the hungry cannibals would not haw tucked, would not haw stained with blood. But you are more inhumane, more inexorable. Oh, 10 times more than tigers of Hyrcania. See, ruthless queen, a hapless father's tears. This cloth thou dippedst in blood of my sweet boy, and I with tears do wash the blood away. Keep thou the napkin and go boast of this, and if thou tell'st the holy story right, vipon my soul, the hearers will shed tears. Yea, you and my foes will shed fast-falling tears, and say, alas, it was a piteous deed. There, take the crown, and with the crown my curse, and in thy need such comfort come to thee, as now I reap at thy too cruel hand. Hard-hearted Clifford, take me from the world, my soul to Hoen, my blood vipon your heads. Northam, had he been slaughterman to all my kin, I should not for my life but weep with him, to see how inly sorrow gripes his soul. Queen, what weeping ripe my lord Northumberland? Think but vipon the wrong he did v's all, and that will quickly dry thy melting tears. Clifford, here's for my oath, here's for my father's death. Queen, and here's to right our gentle-hearted King. York, open thy gate of mercy, gracious God. My soul flies through these wounds, to seek out thee. Queen, off with his head, and set it on York gates, so York may look the town of York. Flourish, exit. A march, enter Edward, Richard, and their power. Edward, I wonder how our princely father scapt, or whether he be scapt away or no, from Clifford's and Northumberland's pursuit. Had he been ta'en, we should haw heard the news. Had he been slain, we should haw heard the news. Or had he scapt, methinks we should haw heard the happy tidings of his good escape. How fares my brother, why is he so sad? Richard, I cannot vie until I be resolute, where our right valiant father is become. I saw him in the battle range about, and watched him how he singled Clifford forth. Methought he bore him in the thickest troop, as doth a lion in a herd of neat, or as a bear encompassed round with dogges, who hawing pinked a few and made them cry. The rest stand all aloof and bark at him. So fared our father with his enemies, so fled his enemies my warlike father. Methinks 'tis prize enough to be his son. See how the morning opes her golden gates, and takes her farewell of the glorious sun. How well resembles it the prime of youth, trimmed like a yonker prancing to his low. Ed, dazzle mine eyes, or do I see 3 sons? Rich, 3 glorious sons, each one a perfect son, not separated with the racking clouds, but sewered in a pale clear shining sky. See, they e'en embrace and seem to kiss, as if they vowed some league innumerable. Now are they but one lamp, one light, one sun. In this the Hoen figures some uant. Edward, 'tis wondrous strange, the like yet newer heard of. I think it cites versus brother to the field, that we, the sons of Braw Plantagenet, each one already blazing by our meads, should notwithstanding iron our lights together, and our shine the earth as this the world. Whate'er it bodes, henceforward will I bear upon my target 3 fair shining sons. Richard, nay, bear 3 daughters. By your low I speak it. You low the breeder better than the male. Enter one blowing. But what art thou whose hoary looks foretell some dreadful story hanging on thy tongue? Mess, one that was a waffle looker on, when as the noble Duke of York was slain, your princely father and my lowing lord. Edward, speak no more, for I ha heard too much. Richard, say how he died, for I will hear it all. Mess, inuirand he was with many foes, and stood against them as the hope of Troy, against the Greeks that would ha entered Troy. But Hercules himself must yield to odds, and many strokes, though with a little axe, hews down and fells the hardest timbered oak. By many hands your father was subdued, but onely slaughtered by the ireful of the unrelenting Clifford and the Queen, who crowned the gracious Duke in high despite, laughed in his face, and when with grief he wept, the ruthless Queen gaw him, to dry his cheeks, a napkin steeped in the harmless blood of sweet young Rutland, by rough Clifford slain. And after many scorns, many foul taunts, they took his head, and on the gates of York they set the same, and there it doth remain, the saddest spectacle that e'er I viewed. Edward, sweet Duke of York, our prop to lean upon, now thou art gone, we haw no staff, no stay. O Clifford, boisterous Clifford, thou hast slain the flower of Europe for his chivalry, and treacherously hast thou vanquished him, for hand to hand he would ha vanquished thee. Now my soul's palace is become a prison. Would she break from hence, that this my body might in the ground be closed vp and rest. For newer henceforth shall I again. Newer, newer shall I see more I. Rich I cannot weep, for all my body's moisture scarce serves to quench my furnace burning heart. Nor can my tongue enload my heart's great burthen. For self-same wind that I should speak withal is kindling coals that fires all my breast, and burns me vp with flames that tears would quench. To weep is to make less the depth of grief. Tears then for babes, blows and ruin for me. Richard, I bear thy name, I'll venge thy death, or die renowned by attempting it. Ed, his name that valiant Duke hath left with thee, his dukedom and his chair with me is left. Rich, nay, if thou be that princely eagle's bird, show thy descent by gazing gainst the sun. For chair and dukedom, throne and kingdom say, either that is thine, or else thou wert not his. March, enter Warwick, Marquess Montacute and their army. Warwick, how now, fair lords, what fair, what news abroad? Rich, great lord of Warwick, if we should recompt our baleful news, and at each word's delirance stab poniards in our flesh till all were told, the words would add more anguish than the wounds. O valiant lord, the Duke of York is slain. Edward, O Warwick, Warwick, that Plantagenet, which held thee dearly as his soul's redemption, is by the stern Lord Clifford done to death. War, 10 days ago I drowned these news in tears, and now to add more measure to your woes, I come to tell you things sith then befell me, after the bloody fray at Wakefield fought, where your braw father breathed his latest gasp. Tidings, as swiftly as the posts could run, were brought me of your loss and his depart. I then in London, keeper of the king, mustered my soldiers, gathered flocks of friends, marked toward Albans to intercept the queen, bearing the king in my behalf along. For by my scouts I was advertised, that she was calming with a full intent to dash our late decree in Parliament, touching King Henry's oath and your succession. Short tale to make, we at S. Albans met, our battles eined, and both sides fiercely fought. But whether 'twas the coldness of the king, who looked full gently on his warlike queen, that robbed my soldiers of their heated spleen, or whether 'twas report of her success, or more than common fear of Clifford's rigour, who thunders to his cap to use blood and death, I cannot urge, but to conclude with truth. Their weapons like to lightning came and went, our soldiers like the night owl's lazy flight, or like a lazy thresher with a flail, fell gently down as if they struck their friends. I cheered them VP with justice of our cause, with promise of high pay and great rewards. But all in vain, they had no heart to fight, and we in them no hope to win the day. So that we fled, the king VNTO the queen, Lord George your brother Norfolk and myself, in haste post haste are come to iron with you. For in the marches here we heard you were making another head to fight again. Ed, where is the Duke of Norfolk, gentle Warwick? And when came George from Burgundy to England? War, some 6 miles off, the Duke is with the soldiers. And for your brother he was lately sent from your kind Aunt Duchess of Burgundy, with aid of soldiers to this needful war. Rich 'twas odds belike when valiant Warwick fled. Oft hoar I heard his praises in pursuit, but near till now his scandal of retire. War, nor now my scandal, Richard, dost thou hear? For thou shalt know this strong right hand of mine can pluck the diadem from faint Henry's head, and wring the awful sceptre from his fist. Were he as famous and as bold in war as he is famed for mildness, peace and prayer. Rich, I know it well, Lord Warwick, blame me not. 'Tis low I bear thy glories make me speak. But in this troublous time what's to be done? Shall we go throw away our coats of steel, and wrap our bodies in blacky mourning gowns, numbering our ormeries with our beads? Or shall we on the helmets of our foes tell our devotion with revengeful arms? If for the last say I, and to it lords, war, why therefore Warwick came to seek you out, and therefore comes my brother Mountague. Attend me, lords, the proud insulting queen, with Clifford and the hot Northumberland, and of their feather many moe proud birds, who wrought the easy melting king like wax. He swore consent to your succession, his oath enrolled in the Parliament, and now to London all the crew are gone, to frustrate both his oath and what beside may make against the house of Lancaster. Their power, I think, is 30,000 strong. Now if the help of Norfolk and myself, with all the friends that thou brought Earl of March, amongst ye the lowing Welshmen canst he procure, will but amount to few and 20,000. Why via to London will we march, and once again bestride our foaming steeds, and once again cry charge upon our foes, but newer once again turn backy and fly. Rich, I now methinks I hear great Warwick speak. Ne'er may he live to see a sunshine day, that cries retire if Warwick bid him stay. Ed, Lord Warwick, on thy shoulder will I lean, and when thou failst, as God forbid the hour, must Edward fall, which peril Hohen forfend. War, no longer Earl of March but Duke of York. The next degree is England's royal throne. For King of England shalt thou be proclaimed, in Ewry Borough as we pass along, and he that throws not VP his cap for aye, shall for the fault make forfeit of his head. King Edward, valiant Richard Mountague, stay we no longer dreaming of renown, but sound the trumpets and about our task. Rich, then Clifford, were thy heart as hard as steel, as thou hast shewn it flinty by thy deeds. I come to pierce it, or to jew thee mine. Ed, then strike VP drums, guard and S George for V's. Enter a messenger. War, how now, what news? Mies, the Duke of Norfolk sends you word by me. The Queen is coming with a puissant host, and craws your company for speedy counsel. War, why then it sorts bra warriors let's away. Exeunt omnes. Flourish, enter the King, the Queen, Clifford, Northam, and Yvonge. Prince with drum and trumpets. Welcome my lord to this bra town of York. Yonder's the head of that arch-enemy, that sought to be encompassed with your crown. Doth not the obeck cheer your heart, my lord? Ki, as the rocks cheer them that fear their wrack. To see this sight it irks my very soul. Withhold ruinge, dear God, 'tis not my fault, nor wittingly hore I infringed my vow. Cliff, my gracious liege, this too much lenity and harmful pity must be laid aside. To whom do Leon cast their gentle looks? Not to the beast that would usurp their den, whose hand is that the forest bear doth lick. Not his that spoils her young before her face, who scapes the lurking serpent's mortal sting. Not he that sets his foot upon her backy. The smallest worm will turn, being trodden on, and dows will peck in safeguard of their brood. Ambitious York did Llewell at thy crown, thou smiling while he knit his angry brows. He but a duke would whore his son a king, and raise his issue like a lowing sire. Thou being a king, blessed with a goodly son. Chapter 999, St. Yield consent to disinherit him, which argued thee a most vn lowing father. Vn reasonable creatures feed their young, and though man's face be fearful to their eyes, yet in protection of their tender ones, who hath not seen them ewen with those wings, which sometime they whore viest with fearful flight, make war with him that climbed vnto their nest, offering their own lius in their young's defence. For shame, my liege, make them your president. Were it not pity that this goodly boy should lose his birthright by his father's fault, and long hereafter say vnto his child, what my great-grandfather and grandsire got, my careless father fondly gore away. Ah, what a shame were this, look on the boy, and let his manly face which promiseth successful fortune steal thy melting heart, to hold thine own and loathe thine own with him. King, full well hath Clifford plaid the orator, inferring arguments of mighty force. But Clifford, tell me, didst thou newer hear that things ill got had you a bad success, and happy always was it for that son, whose father for his hoarding went to hell? I'll low my son my virtuous deeds behind, and would my father had left me no more, for all the rest is held at such a rate, as brings 1,000-fold more care to keep, than in possession any eat of pleasure. Our case in York would thy best friends did know, how it doth grieve me that thy head is here. My lord, cheer VP your spirits, our foes are nigh, and this soft courage makes your followers faint. You promised knighthood to our forward son. Vien, sheath your sword and dub him presently. Edward, kneel down. King Edward Plantagenet, arise a knight, and learn this lesson, draw thy sword in right. Prin, my gracious father, by your kingly low, I'll draw it as apparent to the crown, and in that quarrel see it to the death. Cliff, why that is spoken like a toward prince. Enter a messenger. Mess, royal commanders, be in readiness, for with a band of 30,000 men comes Warwick backing of the Duke of York, and in the towns as they do march along, proclaims him king, and many fly to him. Darrani your battle, for they are at hand. Cliff, I would your highness would depart the field. The queen hath best success when you are absent. I good my lord, and low verses to our fortune. King, why that's my fortune too, therefore I'll stay. North, be it with resolution then to fight. Prin, my royal father, cheer these noble lords, and hearten those that fight in your defence. Vien sheath your sword, good father, cry S. George. March, enter Edward, Warwick, Richard, Clarence, Norfolk, Mountague and soldiers. Edward, now period Henry, wilt thou kneel for grace, and set thy diadem upon my head, or bide the mortal fortune of the field? Go rate thy minions, proud insulting boy. Becomes it thee to be thus bold in terms, before thy sour Raney and thy lawful king? Ed, I am his king, and he should bow his knee. I was adopted heir by his consent. Cla, since when his oath is broke, for as I hear, you that are king, though he do wear the crown, hawk oust him by new act of parliament, to blot out me, and put his own son in. Cliff, and reason too. Who should succeed the father but the son? Rich, are you there, butcher? Oh, I cannot speak. Cliff, I Crookback, here I stand to answer thee. Or any he, the proudest of thy sort. Rich, 'twas you that killed young Rutland, was it not? Cliff, I in old York, and yet not satisfied. Rich, for God's sake, lords, do you signal to the fight? War, what say'st thou, Henry? Wilt thou yield the crown? Why, how now, long-tongued good Warwick, dare you speak? When you and I met at S. Albans last, your legs did better Cerowis than your hands. War, then 'twas my turn to fly, and now 'tis thine. Cliff, you said so much before, and yet you fled. War, 'twas not your valour, Clifford, drow me thence. Nor your manhood that durst make you stay. Rich, Northumberland, I hold thee ruerently. Break off the parley, for scarce I can refrain. The execution of my big swalny heart, vipon that Clifford, that cruel child-killer. Cliff, I slew thy father, call'st thou him a child? Rich, I like a dastard and a treacherous coward, as thou didst kill our tender brother Rutland. But ere sunset, I'll make thee curse the deed. King, ha done with words, my lords, and hear me speak. Defy them then, or else hold close thy lips. King, I prithee do you no limits to my tongue. I am a king, and privilege to speak. Cliff, my liege, the wound that bred this meeting here cannot be cured by words, therefore be still. Rich, then executioner, vien sheath thy sword. By him that made versus all, I am resolute that Clifford's manhood lies vipon his tongue. Ed, say Henry, shall I haul my right or no? 1,000 men haul broke their fasts today. That near shall dine, vien lest thou yield the crown. War, if thou deny their blood vipon thy head. For York in Eastis puts his armour on. Pr. Ed, if that be right which Warwick says is right. There is no wrong, but everything is right. War, who you got thee there thy mother stands. For well I wot thou hast thy mother's tongue. But thou art neither like thy sire nor dam, but like a foul mishapen stigmatic, marked by the destinies to be ordered, as venom toads or lizards' dreadful stings. Rich iron of Naples hid with English guilt, whose father bears the title of a king, as if a channel should be called the sea. Sham'st thou not, knowing whence thou art extract, to let thy tongue detect thy base-born heart? Ed, a wisp of straw were worth 1,000 crowns, to make this shameless callet know herself. Helen of Greece was fairer far than thou, although thy husband may be Menelaus. Aeneas was Agamemnon's brother wronged. by that false woman as this king by thee. His father ruled in the heart of France, and tamed the king and made the dolphin stoop. And had he matched according to his state, he might ha' kept that glory to this day. But when he took a beggar to his bed, and gracked thy poor sire with his brid all day, you and then that sunshine brewed a shower for him, that washed his father's fortunes forth of France, and heaped sedition on his crown at home. For what hath broached this tumult but thy pride? Hadst thou been meek, our title still had slept, and we in pity of the gentle king had slipped our claim till another age. But when we saw our sunshine made thy spring, and that thy summer bred versus no increase, we set the axe to thy usurping root. And though the edge hath something hit our cellus, yet know thou, since we ha' begun to strike, we'll newer low till we ha' hewn thee down, or bathed thy growing with our heated bloods. Edward, and in this resolution I defy thee, not willing any longer conference, since thou deignedst the gentle king to speak. Sound trumpets, let our bloody colours war, and either victory or else agraw. 'Cause stay, Edward. No wrangling woman will no longer stay. These words will cost 10,000 lius this day. Exeunt omnes. Alarum excursions, enter Warwick. War, forespent with toil as runners with a race. I lay me down a little while to breath, for strokes received and many blows repaid, ha' robbed my strong knit sinews of their strength, and spite of spite needs must I rest awhile. Enter Edward running. Smile gentle Hohen, or strike being gentle death. For this world frowns, and Edward's sun is clouded. War, how now my lord, what hap, what hope of's? Good. Enter Clarence. Our hap is loss, our hope but sad despair. Our ranks are broke, and ruin follows versus. What counsel do you, whither shall we fly? Bootless is flight, they follow versus with wings. And weak we are and cannot shun pursuit. Enter Richard. Rich, Warwick, why hast withdrawn thyself? Thy brother's blood the thirsty earth hath drunk, broached with the steely point of Clifford's lance, and in the very pangs of death he cried, like to a dismal clangor heard from far, Warwick ruined, brother, ruined my death. So vien underneath the belly of their steeds, that stained their fetlocks in his smoking blood. The noble gentleman gaw VP the ghost. War, then let the earth be drunken with our blood. I'll kill my horse because I will not fly. Why stand we like soft-hearted women here, wailing our losses whilst the foe doth rage, and look upon as if the tragedy were plaid in east by counterfeiting actors? Here on my knee I vow to God abow, I'll newer pause again, newer stand still, till either death hath closed these eyes of mine, or fortune genuine me measure of ruin. O Warwick, I do bend my knee with thine, and in this vow do chain my soul to thine. And ere my knee rise from the earth's cold face, I throw my hands, mine eyes, my heart to thee. Thou setter VP, and plucker down of kings, beseeching thee if with thy will it stands, that to my foes this body must be prey, yet that thy brazen gates of Hohen may ope, and give you sweet passage to my sinful soul. Now lords, take low till we meet again, where'er it be in Hohen or in earth. Rich brother, give you me thy hand, and gentle Warwick, let me embrace thee in my weary arms. I that did newer weep, now melt with woe, that winter should cut off our springtime so. Wars, away, away. Once more, sweet lords, farewell. Yet let these all together to our troops. and gew them low to fly that will not stay, and call them pillars that will stand to versus. And if we three you promise them such rewards as victors were at the Olympian games, this may plant courage in their quailing breasts, for yet is hope of life and victory. For slow no longer make we hence amen. Exeunt. Excursions, enter Richard and Clifford. Rich, now Clifford, I horse singled thee alone. Suppose this arm is for the Duke of York, and this for Rutland, both bound to ruinage. Wert thou inurient with a brazen wall? Cliff, now Richard, I am with thee here alone. This is the hand that stabbed thy father York, and this the hand that slew thy brother Rutland. And here's the heart that triumphs in their death, and cheers these hands that slew thy sire and brother, to execute the like vipon thyself, and so whore at thee. They fight, Warwick comes, Clifford flies. Rich, nay Warwick, single out some other chase, for I myself will hunt this wolf to death. Exeunt. Alarum, enter King Henry alone. Hen, this battle fares like to the morning's war, when dying clouds contend with growing light. What time the shepherd blowing of his nails can neither call it perfect day nor night. Now sways it this way like a mighty sea, forked by the tide to combat with the wind. Now sways it that way like the selfsame sea, forked to retire by fury of the wind. Sometime the flood preluils, and then the wind. Now one the better, then another best, both tugging to be victors breast to breast. Yet neither conqueror nor conquered. So is the equal poise of this fell war. Here on this molehill will I sit me down. To whom God will there be the victory. For Margaret my queen and Clifford too, who chid me from the battle, swearing both they prosper best of all when I am thence. Would I were dead if God's good will were so. For what is in this world but grief and woe? O God, methinks it were a happy life, to be no better than a homely swain, to sit vipon a hill as I do now, to carue out dials quaintly, point by point, thereby to see the minutes how they run. How many makes the hour full complete? How many hours brings about the day? How many days will finish VP the year? How many years a mortal man may live? When this is known, then to divide the times. So many hours must I tend my flock. So many hours must I take my rest. So many hours must I contemplate. So many hours must I sport myself. So many days my use hob benny with young. So many weeks ere the poor fools will eat. So many years ere I shall shear the fleece. So minutes, hours, days, months and years, past hour to the end they were created, would bring white hairs vnto a quiet graw. Ah, what a life were this, how sweet, how lowly. Geuse not the hawthorn bush a sweeter shade to shepherds looking on their silly sheep, then doth a rich embroidered canopy to kings that fear their subjects' treachery. Oh yes, it doth, 1,000-fold it doth. And to conclude, the shepherd's homely curds, his cold thin drink out of his leather bottle, his wonted sleep, under a fresh tree's shade, all which secure and sweetly he enjoys, is far beyond a prince's delicates. His viands sparkling in a golden cup, his body couched in a curious bed, when care, mistrust, and treason waits on him. Alarum, enter a son that hath killed his father at one door, and a father that hath killed his son at another door. Son, ill blows the wind that profits nobody. This man whom hand to hand I slew in fight may be possessed with some store of crowns, and I that haply take them from him now, may yet ere night yield both my life and them to some man else as this dead man doth me. Who's this, O God? It is my father's face, whom in this conflict I vienwares ho killed. O hoey times, begetting such ewents. From London by the king was I pressed forth. My father being the Earl of Warwick's man, came on the part of York, pressed by his master, and I, who at his hands received my life, who by my hands of life borrowed him. Pardon me, God, I knew not what I did, and pardon, Father, for I knew not thee. My tears shall wipe away these bloody marks, and no more words, till they ha flowed their fill. King, O piteous spectacle, O bloody times, whiles Leon war and battle for their dens. Poor harmless lambs abide their enmity. Weep, wretched man, I'll ide thee tear for tear, and let our hearts and eyes like sea-will war, be blind with tears, and break o'ercharged with grief. Enter Father bearing of his son. Fa, thou that so stoutly hath resisted me, giu me thy gold if thou hast any gold, for I ho bought it with 100 blows. But let me see, is this our foeman's face? Ah, no, 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 it is mine only son. Ah, boy, if any life be left in thee, throw VP thine eye, see what showers arise, blown with the windy tempest of my heart, vipon thy wounds that kills mine eye and heart. O pity God this miserable age. What stratagems, how fell, how butcherly, erroneous, mutinous, and vien natural, this deadly quarrel daily doth beget. O boy, thy father gore thee life too soon, and hath bereft thee of thy life too late. King, woe about woe, grief more the common grief. O that my death would stay these ruthful deeds. O pity, pity, gentle Hohen pity. The red rose and the white are on his face, the fatal colours of our strewing houses. The one his purple blood right well resembles, the other his pale cheeks methinks presenteth. Wither one rose and let the other flourish. If you contend, 1,000 leaves must wither. Son, how will my mother for a father's death take on with me and ne'er be satisfied? Fa, how will my wife for slaughter of my son shed seas of tears and ne'er be satisfied? King, how will the country for these woeful chances misthink the king and not be satisfied? Son, was your son so rowed a father's death? Fath, was your father so bemoaned his son? Hen, was your king so grieved for Subike's woe? Much is your sorrow, mine 10 times so much. Son, I'll bear thee hence where I may weep my fill. Fath, these arms of mine shall be thy winding sheet. My heart, sweet boy, shall be thy sepulchre, for from my heart thine image near shall go. My sighing breast shall be thy funeral bell, and so obsequious will thy father be. Men for the loss of thee, hoying no more, as Priam was for all his valiant sons. I'll bear thee hence, and let them fight that will, for I ho murdered where I should not kill. Exit. Hen, sad-hearted men much hour gone with care. Here sits a king more waffle than you are. Alarums, excursions, enter the queen, the prince, and Exeter. Prince, fly, father, fly, for all your friends are fled. And Warwick rages like a chafed bull. Away, for death doth hold V's in pursuit. Come out you, my lord, towards Barwick post Amin. Edward and Richard like a brace of greyhounds, hawing the fearful flying hare in sight, with fiery eyes sparkling for very wrath, and bloody steel grasped in their earful hands, are at our backs, and therefore hence Amin. Exet, away, for vengeance comes along with them. Nay, stay not to expostulate, make speed, or else come after, I'll away before. Hen, nay, take me with thee, good sweet Exeter. Not that I fear to stay, but low to go. Whether the Queen intends, forward away. Exeunt. A loud alarum, enter Clifford wounded. Cliff, here burns my candle out, I hear it dies. Which whiles it lasted, gore King Henry light. O Lancaster, I fear thy overthrow. More than my body's parting with my soul. My low and fear glued many friends to thee. And now I fall, thy tough commixtures melts. Impairing Henry, strengthening misproud York. And whither fly the gnats but to the sun? And who shines now but Henry's enemies? O Phoebus, hadst thou newer genuine consent, that ph atone should check thy fiery steeds. Thy burning car newer had scorched the earth. And Henry hadst thou swayed as kings should do. Or as thy father and his father did. Genuing no ground vnto the house of York. They newer than had sprung like summer flies. I and 10,000 in this luckless realmy. Had left no mourning widows for our death. And thou this day hadst kept thy chair in peace. For what doth cherish weeds but gentle air? And what makes robbers bold but too much lenity? Bootless are plaints and cureless are my wounds. No way to fly, no strength to hold out flight. The foe is merciless and will not pity. For at their hands I hoard deserved no pity. The air hath got into my deadly wounds. And much effuse of blood doth make me faint. Come York and Richard, Warwick and the rest. I stabbed your father's bosoms, split my breast. Alarum and retreat, enter Edward, Warwick, Richard and soldiers Montague and Clarence. Ed, now breath we lords, good fortune bids versus pause. And smooth the frowns of war with peaceful looks. Some troops pursue the bloody-minded queen. That led calmy Henry, though he were a king. As doth a sail, filled with a fretting gust, command an argosy to stem the wars. But think you, lords, that Clifford fled with them? War, no, 'tis impossible he should escape. For though before his face I speak the words, your brother Richard marked him for the graw. And wheresoe'er he is, he's surely dead. Clifford groans. Rich, whose soul is that which takes here hoey low. A deadly groan, like life and death's departing. See who it is. Ed, and now the battle's ended. If friend or foe, let him be gently said. Rich, rook that doom of mercy, for 'tis Clifford. Who not contented that he lopped the branch, in hewing Rutland when his lows put forth, but set his murthering knife vnto the root, from whence that tender spray did sweetly spring. I mean our princely father, Duke of York. War, from off the gates of York, fetch down Wyhead. Your father's head which Clifford placed there. Instead whereof let this supply the room. Measure for measure must be answered. Ed, bring forth that fatal shriechwell to our house. That nothing sung but death to these and ours. Now death shall stop his dismal threatening sound. And his ill-boding tongue no more shall speak. War, I think his understanding is bereft. Speak Clifford, dost thou know who speaks to thee? Dark cloudy death o'ershades his beams of life. And he nor sees nor hears versus what we say. Rich, oh would he did, and so perhaps he doth. 'Tis but his policy to counterfeit, because he would avoid such bitter taunts, which in the time of death he gore our father. Cla, if so thou think'st, vex him with eager words. Rich, Clifford ask mercy and obtain no grace. Ed, Clifford repent in bootless penitence. War, Clifford dues excuses for thy faults. Cla, while we dues fell tortures for thy faults. Rich, thou didst low York and I am son to York. Edward, thou pittedst Rutland, I will pity thee. Cla, where's Captain Margaret to fence you now? War, they mark thee Clifford. Swear as thou wast wont. Rick, what, not an oath? Nay, then the world goes hard. When Clifford cannot spare his friends an oath. I know by that he's dead, and by my soul, if this right hand would buy 2 hours' life, that I, in all despite, might rail at him, this hand should chop it off, and with the issuing blood stifle the villain whose VN stanched thirst York and young Rutland could not satisfy. War I, but he's dead, of with the traitor's head, and rear it in the place your father's stands. And now to London with triumphant march, there to be crowned England's royal king. From whence shall Warwick cut the sea to France, and ask the Lady Bona for thy queen. So shalt thou sinnow both these lands together, and hoying France thy friend, thou shalt not dread the scattered foe that hopes to rise again. For though they cannot greatly sting to hurt, yet look to how them buzz to offend thine ears. First will I see the coronation, and then to Brittany I'll cross the sea, to effect this marriage, so it please my lord. Ed, Ewan, as thou wilt, sweet Warwick, let it be. For in thy shoulder do I build a my seat, and newer will I undertake the thing, wherein thy counsel and consent is wanting. Richard, I will create thee Duke of Gloucester, and George of Clarence, Warwick as ourself, shall do and VNDO as him pleaseth best. Rich, let me be Duke of Clarence, George of Gloucester, for Gloucester's dukedom is too ominous. War, tut, that's a foolish observation. Richard be Duke of Gloucester, now to London, to see these honours in possession. Exeunt. Enter Sinclair and Humphrey, with crossbows in their hands. Sink, viender this thick-grown brake we'll shroud ourselves, for through this lawn anon the deer will come, and in this cowert will we make our stand, culling the principal of all the deer. I'll stay about the hill so both may shoot. Sink, that cannot be, the noise of thy crossbow will scar the herd, and so my shoot is lost. Here stand we both, and I'm we at the best, and for the time shall not seem tedious. I'll tell thee what befell me on a day, in this self-place where now we mean to stand. Sink, here comes a man, let's stay till he be past. Enter the king with a prayer book. Hen, from Scotland am I Stalny Ewan of pure Low, to greet mine own land with my wishful sight. No Harry, 'tis no land of thine. Thy place is filled, thy sceptre wrung from thee, thy balmy washed off wherewith thou was anointed. No bending knee will call thee CSR now, no humble suitor's priest to speak for right. No, not a man comes for redress of thee, for how can I help them and not myself? Sink, I here's a deer whose skin's a keeper's fee. This is the quondam king, let's seize thee upon him. Hen, let me embrace the sower adversaries, for wise men say it is the wisest course. Why linger we, let these lay hands thee upon him. Sink, forbear a while, we'll hear a little more. Hen, my queen and son are gone to France for aid, and as I hear, the great commanding Warwick, I thither gone to craw the French king's sister, to wife for Edward, if this news be true. Poor queen and son, your labour is but lost, for Warwick is a subtle orator, and Lewis a prince soon won with mooing words. By this account then Margaret may win him, for she's a woman to be pitied much. Her sighs will make a battery in his breast, her tears will pierce into a marble heart. The tiger will be milder, while she doth mourn, and Nero will be tainted with remorse, to hear and see her plaints, her brinish tears. Ay, but she's come to beg Warwick to Jew. She on his left side, crowing-eyed for Henry, he on his right, asking a wife for Edward. She weeps and says her Henry is deposed. He smiles and says his Edward is installed. That she, poor wretch, for grief can speak no more. Whiles Warwick tells his title, smooths the wrong, inferreth arguments of mighty strength, and in conclusion wins the king from her, with promise of his sister, and what else, to strengthen and support King Edward's place. O Margaret, thus 'twill be, and thou, poor soul, art then forsaken, as thou went'st forlorn. Say, what art thou talk'st of kings and queens? King, more than I seem, and less than I was born to. A man at least, for less I should not be. And men may talk of kings, and why not I? Aye, but thou talk'st as if thou wert a king. King, why so I am in mind, and that's enough. But if thou be a king, where is thy crown? King, my crown is in my heart, not on my head. Not decked with diamonds and Indian stones. Nor to be seen, my crown is called content. A crown it is, that seldom kings enjoy. Well, if you be a king crowned with content, your crown content, and you must be contented to go along with these, for as we think, you are the king King Edward hath deposed, and we his subjects, sworn in all allegiance, will apprehend you as his enemy. King, but did you never swear and break an oath? No, never such an oath, nor will not now. King, where did you dwell when I was King of England? Here in this country where we now remain. King, I was anointed king at 9 months old. My father and my grandfather were kings. And you were sworn true subjects vnto me. And tell me then, how you not broke your oaths? Sin, no, for we were subjects, but while you were king. Kings, why am I dead, do I not breath a man? Ah, simple men, you know not what you swear. Look, as I blow this feather from my face, and as the air blows it to me again, obeying with my wind when I do blow, and yielding to another when it blows, commanded always by the greater gust. Such is the lightness of you, common men. But do not break your oaths, for of that sin my milder entreaty shall not make you guilty. Go where you will, the king shall be commanded. And be you king's command, and I'll obey. Sinclair, we are true subjects to the king. King Edward. King, so would you be again to Henry, if he were seated as King Edward is. Sinclair, we charge you in God's name and the king's, to go with versus vnto the officers. King, in God's name lead, your king's name be obeyed. And what God will, that let your king perform. And what he will, I humbly yield vnto. Exeunt. Enter K. Edward, Gloucester, Clarence, Lady Grey. King, brother of Gloucester at S. Albans Field. This lady's husband, Sir Richard Grey, was slain. His land then seized on by the Conqueror. Her suit is now to repossess those lands, which we in Eustis cannot well deny, because in quarrel of the House of York, the worthy gentleman did lose his life. Rich, your highness shall do well to grant her suit. It would dishonour to deny it her. King, it were no less, but yet I'll make a pause. Rich, yea, is it so? I see the lady hath a thing to grant. Before the king will grant her humble suit. Clarence, he knows the game, how true he keeps. The wind. Rich is silence. King, widow, we will consider of your suit, and come some other time to know our mind. Wid, right gracious lord, I cannot brook delay. May it please your highness to resolve me now, and what your pleasure is shall satisfy me. Rich, I widow, then I'll warrant you all your lands, and if what pleases him shall pleasure you, fight closer, or good faith you let catch a blow. Clarence, I fear her not unless she chance to fall. Rich, God forbid that, for he'll take vantages. King, how many children hast thou, widow, tell me? Clarence, I think he means to beg a child of her. Rich, nay then whip me, he'll rather jew her too. Wid 3 My most gracious lord. Rich, you shall haw for if you le be ruled by him. King, 'twere pity they should lose their fathers. Lands. Wid, be pitiful, dread lord, and grant it then. King, lords Jew versus low, I'll try this widow's. Wit. Rich, I good low haw you, for you will haw low. Till youth take low, and low you to the crutch. King, now tell me, madame, do you low your children? Wid, I full as dearly as I low myself. King, and would you not do much to do them good? Wid, to do them good I would sustain some harms. King, then get your husband's lands to do them good. Wid, therefore I came vnto your majesty. King, I'll tell you how these lands are to be got. Wid, so shall you bind me to your highness Cerois. King, what Cerois wilt thou do me if I gie you them? Wid, what you command, that rests in me to do. King, but you will take exceptions to my boon. Wid, no, gracious lord, except I cannot do it. King, aye, but thou canst do what I mean to ask. Wid, why then I will do what your grace commands. Rich, he plies her hard, and much rain wears the marble claw as red as fire, nay then her wax must melt. Wid, why stops my lord, shall I not hear my task? King, an easy task, 'tis but to low a king. Wid, that soon performed because I am a subject. King, why then thy husband's lands I freely gie you thee. Wid, I take my low with many thousand thanks. Rich, the match is made, she seals it with a kersey. King, but stay thee, 'tis the fruits of low I mean. Wid, the fruits of low I mean, my lowing liege. King, aye, but I fear me in another sense. What low think'st thou I sue so much to get? Wid, my low till death, my humble thanks, my prayers. That low which virtue beggars and virtue grants. King, no, by my troth I did not mean such low. Wid, why then you mean not as I thought you did. King, but now you partly may pursue my mind. Wid, my mind will newer grant what I pursue. Your highness I'm zet if I'm a right. King, to tell thee plain I'm to lie with thee. Wid, to tell you plain I had rather lie in prison. King, why then thou shalt not whore thy husband's lands. Wid, why then mine honesty shall be my dower. For by that loss I will not purchase them. King, therein thou wrong'st thy children mightily. Wid, herein your highness wrongs both them and me. But mighty lord, this merry inclination accords not with the sadness of my suit. Please you dismiss me, either with aye or no. King, aye if thou wilt say aye to my request. No, if thou dost say no to my demand. Wid, then no, my lord, my suit is at an end. Rich, the widow likes him not, she knits her brows. Clarence, he is the bluntest wooer in Christendom. King, her looks doth argue her replete with modesty. Her words doth show her wit incomparable. All her perfections challenge sour rainty. One way or other she is for a king. And she shall be my low or else my queen. Say that King Edward take thee for his queen. Wid, 'tis better said than done, my gracious lord. I am a subject fit to east withal. But far vien fit to be a sour rainy. King, sweet widow, by my state I swear to thee. I speak no more than what my soul intends. And that is to enjoy thee for my low. Wid, and that is more than I will yield vnto. I know I am too mean to be your queen, and yet too good to be your concubine. King, you coil widow, I did mean my queen. Wid, 'twill gree your grace my sons should call you father. King, no more than when my daughters call thee mother. Thou art a widow, and thou hast some children. And by God's mother, I being but a bachelor, Or othersome, why 'tis a happy thing to be the father vnto many sons. Answer no more, for thou shalt be my queen. Rich, the ghostly father now hath done his shrift. Clarence, when he was made a shrewer, 'twas for shift. King, brothers, you muse what chat we two whore had. Rich, the widow likes it not, for she looks very sad. King, you'll think it strange if I should marry her. Clarence, to who, my lord? King, why Clarence to myself. Rich, that would be 10 days' wonder at the least. Clarence, that's a day longer than a wonder lasts. Rich, by so much is the wonder in extremes. King, well, east on brothers, I can tell you both. Her suit is granted for her husband's lands. Enter a noble man. Nab, my gracious lord Henry your foe is taken, and brought your prisoner to your palace gate. King, see that he be canoed vnto the tower, and go we brothers to the man that took him, to question of his apprehension. Widow, go you along, lords vsc her honourable. Exeunt. Man it Richard. Rich, I Edward will vsc women honourably. Would he were wasted, marrow, bones and all, that from his loins no hopeful branch may spring, to cross me from the golden time I look for. And yet between my soul's desire and me, the lustful Edward's title buried, is Clarence Henry and his son young Edward, and all the VN looked for issue of their bodies, to take their rooms ere I can place myself. A cold premeditation for my purpose. Why then I do but dream on sour rainty, like one that stands vipon a promontory, and spies a far-off shore where he would tread, wishing his foot were equal with his eye, and chides the sea that sunders him from thence, saying he'll laid it dry to whore his way. So do I wish the crown being so far off, and so I chide the means that keeps me from it. And so I say I'll cut the causes off, flattering me with impossibilities. My eyes too quick, my heart a reweens too much. Vn less my hand and strength could equal them. Well, say there is no kingdom then for Richard. What other pleasure can the world afford? I'll make my hoen in a lady's lap, and deck my body in gay ornaments, and witch sweet ladies with my words and looks. O miserable thought, and more Vn likely, then to accomplish 20 golden crowns. Why Lau forswore me in my mother's womb, and for I should not deal in her soft laws, she did corrupt frail nature with some bribe, to shrink mine arm VP like a withered shrub, to make an inurious mountain on my back, where sits deformity to mark my body, to shape my legs of an unequal size, to disproportion me in ury part, like to a chaos or an Vn-licked bear whelp, that carries no impression like the dam. And am I then a man to be belued? O monstrous fault to harbour such a thought. Then since this earth affords no eye to me, but to command to check to a rebear such, as are of better person than myself, I'll make my hoen to dream vipon the crown, and whiles I leut account this world but hell, vn till my misshap trunk that bears this head be round impaled with a glorious crown. And yet I know not how to get the crown, for many leus stand between me and home, and I like one lost in a thorny wood, that rents the thorns and is rent with the thorns, seeking a way and straying from the way, not knowing how to find the open air, but toiling desperately to find it out, torment myself to catch the English crown, and from that torment I will free myself, or hew my way out with a bloody axe. Why I can smile and murder whiles I smile, and cry content to that which grieves my heart. and wet my cheeks with artificial tears, and frame my face to all occasions. I'll drown more sailors than the mermaid shall. I'll slay more gazers than the basilisk. I'll play the orator as well as Nestor, to see you more slyly than Velis's could, and like a Sinon take another Troy. I can add colours to the chameleon, change shapes with Proteus for advantages, and set the murderous Mashuel to school. Can I do this and cannot get a crown? Tut, were it farther off, I'll pluck it down. Enter. Flourish, enter Louis the French king, his sister Bona his admirals. Cold Bourbon, Prince Edward, Queen Margaret and the Earl of Oxford. Louis sits and riseth VP again. Louis, fair Queen of England, worthy Margaret, sit down with versus, it ill befits thy state, and birth that thou shouldst stand, while Louis doth sit. Marg, no mighty King of France, now Margaret must strike her sail and learn a while to seru. Where kings command, I must confess, great Albion's queen in former golden days. But now mischance hath trod my title down, and with dishonour laid me on the ground, where I must take like seat vnto my fortune, and to my humble seat conform myself. Louis, why say, fair queen, whence springs this deep despair? Marg, from such a cause as fills mine eyes with tears, and stops my tongue, while heart is drowned in cares. Louis, whate'er it be thou still like thyself, and sit thee by our side. Seats her by him. Yield not thy neck to fortune's yoke, but let thy dauntless mind still ride in triumph. Our all mischance. Be plain, Queen Margaret, and tell thy grief. It shall be eased if France can yield relief. Marg, those gracious words rue you my drooping thoughts, and gee you my tongue-tied sorrows low to speak. Now therefore be it known to noble Louis, that Henry, sole possessor of my lowe, is of a king become a banished man, and folk to lie you in Scotland a forlorn, while proud ambitious Edward, Duke of York, usurps the regal title and the seat of England's true anointed lawful king. This is the cause that I, poor Margaret, with this my son, Prince Edward, Henry's heir, am come to craw thy earst and lawful eyed. And if thou fail these, all our hope is done. Scotland hath will to help but cannot help. Our people and our peers are both misled. Our treasure seized, our soldiers put to flight. And as thou seest, our Selous in hoey plight. Louis, renowned queen, with patience calm me the storm, while we bethink a means to break it off. Marg, the more we stay, the stronger grows our foe. Louis, the more I stay, the more I'll succour thee. Marg, oh, but impatience waiteth on true sorrow. And see where comes the breeder of my sorrow. Enter Warwick. Louis, what's he approacheth boldly to our presence? Marg, our Earl of Warwick, Edward's greatest friend. Louis, welcome, bra Warwick, what brings thee to France? He descends, she ariseth. Marg, I now begins a second storm to rise. For this is he that moves both wind and tide. Warwer, from worthy Edward, King of Albion, my lord and sour Rainy, and thy vowed friend, I come in kindness and vien feigned low. First to dow greetings to thy royal person, and then to craw a league of amity, and lastly to confirm that amity with nuptial knot, if thou vouchsafe to grant that virtuous Lady Bona, thy fair sister, to England's king in lawful marriage. Marg, if that go forward, Henry's hope is done. Warwer and gracious madame, speaking to Bona, In our king's behalf, I am commanded with your low and fore, humbly to kiss your hand, and with my tongue, to tell the passion of my sour Rainey's heart, where fame, late entering at his heedful ears, hath placked thy beauty's image and thy virtue. Marg, King Lewis and Lady Bona, hear me speak. Before you answer Warwick, his demand springs not from Edward's well-meant honest low, but from deceit bred by necessity. For how can tyrants safely govern home, unless abroad they purchase great alliance? To prow him tyrant, this reason may suffice, that Henry lieth still, but were he dead, yet here Prince Edward stands, King Henry's son. Look therefore, Lewis, that by this league and marriage thou draw not on thy danger and dishonour. For though usurpers sway the rule a while, yet hones are erst, and time suppresseth wrongs. War were in Urius Margaret, Edward, and why not Queen? War were because thy father Henry did usurp, and thou no more art prince than she is queen. Arx, then Warwick disannals great Ion of Gaunt, which did subdue the greatest part of Spain. And after Ion of Gaunt, Henry the Fourth, whose wisdom was a mirror to the wisest. And after that wise prince Henry the Fifth, who by his prowess conquered all France. From these our Henry lineally descends. Warwer, Oxford, how haps it in this smooth discourse? You told not how Henry the Sixth hath lost all that which Henry the Fifth had gotten. Methinks these peers of France should smile at that. But for the rest, you tell a pedigree of 62 years, a silly time to make prescription for a kingdom's worth. Ox, why Warwick canst thou speak against thy liege, whom thou obedst 36 years, and not bewray thy treason with a blush? Warwer, can Oxford that did you offence the right, now buckler falsehood with a pedigree? For shame low Henry, and call Edward king. Ox, call him my king by whose injurious doom my elder brother, the Lord Aubreyvere, was done to death, and more than so my father, Ewan, in the downfall of his mellowed years, when nature brought him to the door of death. No, Warwick, no, while life folds this arm folds the house of Lancaster, Warwer, and I the house of York. Lewis, Queen Margaret, Prince Edward, and Oxford, vouchsafe at our request to stand aside, while I VSC further conference with Warwick. They stand aloof. Marg, Hohen's grant that Warwick's words bewitch him not. Lou, now Warwick, tell me Ewan vipon thy conscience. Is Edward your true king? For I were loth to link with him that were not lawful chosen. Warwer, thereon I pawn my credit and mine honour. Lewis, but is he gracious in the people's eye? Warwer, the more that Henry was fortunate. Lewis, then further, all dissembling set aside. Tell me for truth the measure of his low. VNTO our sister Bona. War, such it seems, as may beseem a monarch like himself. Myself who often heard him say and swear that this his low was an external plant, whereof the root was fixed in virtue's ground, the lows and fruit maintained with beauty's sun, exempt from eye but not from disdain, unless the Lady Bona quit his pain. Lewis, now sister, let verses hear your firm resolute. Bona, your grant or your denial shall be mine. Yet I confess that often ere this day speaks to war. When I heard your king's desert recounted, mine ear hath tempted urgement to desire. Lewis, then Warwick thus, our sister shall be Edward's, and now forthwith shall articles be drawn, touching the ironture that your king must make, which with her dowry shall be counterpoised. Draw near, Queen Margaret, and be a witness. that Bona shall be wife to the English king. Edward, to Edward but not to the English king. Marg, deceitful Warwick, it was thy duis, by this alliance to make void my suit. Before thy calming, Lewis was Henry's friend. Lewis, and still is friend to him and Margaret. But if your title to the crown by weak, as may appear by Edward's good success, then 'tis but reason that I be released from geoing eyed which late I promised. Yet shall you haw all kindness at my hand, that your estate requires and mine can yield. Warwa, Henry now lives in Scotland at his ease, where hoying nothing, nothing can he lose. And as for you yourself, our quondam queen, you haw a father able to maintain you, and better tweer you troubled him than France. Mar peace impudent and shameless Warwick, proud setter VP and puller down of kings. I will not hence till with my talk and tears, both full of truth, I make King Lewis behold thy sly connivance and thy lord's false low, post blowing a horn within. For both of you are birds of self-same feather. Lose, Warwick, this is some post to these or thee. Enter the post. Post, my lord ambassador. These letters are for you. Speaks to Warwick. Sent from your brother Marquess Montague. These from our king, VNTO your majesty. To Lewis. And madam, these for you. To Margaret. From whom I know not. They all read their letters. Ox, I like it well that our fair queen and mistress smiles at her news, while Warwick frowns at his. Prince Ed, nay mark how Lewis stamps as he were nettled. I hope all's for the best. Lew, Warwick, what are thy news? And yours, fair queen? Mar mine such, as fill my heart with VN hopped joys. War, mine full of sorrow and heart's discontent. Lew, what, has your king married the Lady Grey? And now to sooth your forgery and his, sends me a paper to persuade me patience. Is this alliance that he seeks with France? Dare he presume to scorn these in this manner? Mar, I told your majesty as much before. This proweth Edward's low and Warwick's honesty. War, King Lewis I hear protest in sight of Hohen, and by the hope I haw of hohenly bliss, that I am clear from this misdeed of Edward's. No more my king, for he dishonours me, but most himself if he could see his shame. Chapter 999. I forget that by the house of York my father came VN timely to his death. Chapter 999. I let pass abuse done to my niece. Chapter 999. I impale him with the regal crown. Chapter 999. I put Henry from his natty right. And am I guerdoned at the last with shame? Shame on himself, for my desert is honour, and to repair my honour lost for him, I here renounce him and return to Henry. My noble queen, let former grudges pass, and henceforth I am thy true servitor. I will revenge his wrong to Lady Bona, and replant Henry in his former state. Mar Warwick. These words haw turned my hate to low, and I forge you and quite forget old faults. And I that thou becomest King Henry's friend. War, so much his friend I his VN feigned friend, that if King Lewis vouchsafe to furnish versus, with some few bands of chosen soldiers, I'll VN undertake to land them on our coast, and force the tyrant from his seat by war. 'Tis not his new-made bride shall succour him. And as for Clarence, as my letters tell me, he's very likely now to fall from him, for matching more for wanton lust than honour, or than for strength and safety of our country. Bona, dear brother, how shall Bona be ruined? But by thy help to this distressed queen. Mar renowned prince, how shall poor Henry lee you? Vien lest thou rescue him from foul despair. Bona, my quarrel and this English queen's are one. War, and mine fair lady Bona, eins with yours. Lou, and mine with hers and thine and Margaret's. Therefore at last I firmly am resolute. You shall whore-eyed. Mar let me do you humble thanks for all at once. Lou, then England's messenger return in post. And tell false Edward, thy supposed king, that Louis of France is sending our maskers to rule it with him and his new bride. Thou seest what's past, go fear thy king withal. Bona, tell him in hope he'll prow a widower shortly. I wear the willow garland for his sake. Mar tell him my mourning weeds are laid aside, and I am ready to put armour on. War, tell him from me that he hath done me wrong, and therefore I'll vien crown him, ert be long. There's thy reward, be gone. Exit post. Lou but Warwick, thou and Oxford with few thousand men, shall cross the seas and bid false Edward battle, and as occasion sorrows this noble queen, and prince shall follow with a fresh supply. Yet ere thou go, but answer me one doubt. What pledge haw we of thy firm loyalty? War, this shall assure my constant loyalty, that if our queen and this young prince agree, I'll in mine eldest daughter and my eye to him forthwith in holy wedlock bands. Mar, yes, I agree, and thank you for your motion. Son Edward, she is fair and virtuous. Therefore delay not, gi you thy hand to Warwick, and with thy hand thy faith irrevocable, that onely Warwick's daughter shall be thine. Prin Ed, yes, I accept her, for she well deserves it. And here to pledge my vow, I gi you my hand. He gius his hand to Warwa. Lou, why stay we now? These soldiers shall bluid. And thou, Lord Bourbon, our high admiral, shall waft them hour with our royal fleet. I long till Edward fall by war's mischance, for mocking marriage with a dame of France. Exeunt man at Warwick. War, I came from Edward as ambassador, but I return his sworn and mortal foe. Matter of marriage was the charge he gave me, but dreadful war shall answer his demand. Had he none else to make a stale but me, then none but I shall turn his east to sorrow. I was the chief that raised him to the crown, and I'll be chief to bring him down again. Not that I pity Henry's misery, but seek revenge on Edward's mockery. Enter Richard, Clarence, Somerset and Mountague. Rich, now tell me, brother Clarence, what think you of this new marriage with the Lady Grey? Hath not our brother made a worthy choice? Claw, alas, you know 'tis far from hence to France. How could he stay till Warwick made return? So, my lords, forbear this talk, here comes the King. Flourish, enter King Edward, Lady Grey, Pembroke, Stafford, Hastings, 4 stand on one side and 4 on the other. Rich and his well-chosen bride. Clarence, I mind to tell him plainly what I think. King, now brother of Clarence, how like you our choice, that you stand pense you as half malcontent? Clarence as well as Louis of France, or the Earl of Warwick, which are so weak of courage and in agement, that they'll take no offence at our abuse. King, suppose they take offence without a cause. They are but Louis and Warwick, I am Edward. Your king and Warwick's, and must haw my will. Rich, and shall haw your will because our king. Yet hasty marriage seldom proweth. King, yea, brother Richard, are you offended too? Rich, not I know. God forbid that I should wish them seward, whom God hath eined together. I and 'twere pity to sunder them, that yoke so well together. King, setting your scorns and your mislike aside, tell me some reason why the Lady Grey should not become my wife and England's queen. And you too, Somerset and Mountague, speak freely what you think. Clarence, then this is mine opinion, that King Lewis becomes your enemy, for marking him about the marriage of the Lady Bona. Rich and Warwick doing what you go in charge, is now dishonoured by this new marriage. King, what if both Lewis and Warwick be appeased by such an union as I can duoise? Mount, yet to whore eyed with France in such alliance, would more whore strengthen this our commonwealth gainst foreign storms than any home-bred marriage. Hast, why knows not Mountague that of itself England is safe if true within itself? Mount, but the safer when 'tis backed with France. Hast, 'tis better vising France than trusting France. Let these be backed with God and with the seas, which he hath given for fence impregnable, and with their helps onely defend ourselves. In them and in ourselves our safety lies. Clar, for this one speech Lord Hastings well deserves to whore the heir of the Lord Hungerford. King, I what of that, it was my will and grant, and for this once my will shall stand for law. Rich, and yet methinks your grace hath not done well to gie you the heir and daughter of Lord Scales, VNTO the brother of your lowing bride. She better would ha fitted me or Clarence, but in your bride you bury brotherhood. Clar, or else you would not ha bestowed the of the Lord Barnwell on your new wee son, and lo your brothers to go speed elsewhere. King, alas poor Clarence, is it for a wife that thou art malcontent? I will prohibit thee. Clarence, in choosing for yourself, you showed your judgment, which being shallow you shall gie me low, to play the broker in mine own behalf, and to that end I shortly mind to low you. King, low me or tarry, Edward will be king, and not be tied VNTO his brothers were. Lady Grey, my lords, before it pleased his majesty to race my state to title of a queen, do me but right, and you must all confess that I was not ignoble of descent, and meaner than myself who had like fortune. But as this title honours me and mine, so your dislikes, to whom I would be pleasing, doth cloud my joys with danger and with sorrow. King, my low forbear to fawn vipon their frowns. What danger or what sorrow can befall thee, so long as Edward is thy constant friend, and their true sour Rainy whom they must obey? Nay, whom they shall obey and low thee too. Vien lest they seek for hatred at my hands, which if they do, yet will I keep thee safe, and they shall feel the vengeance of my wrath. Rich, I hear, yet say not much, but think the more. Enter a post. King, now messenger, what letters or what news? From France. Post, my sour Rainy liege, no letters and few words, but such as I, without your special pardon, dare not relate. King, go to, we pardon thee. Therefore in brief tell me their words, as near as thou canst guess them. What answer makes King Lewis VNTO our letters? Post, at my depart these were his very words. Go tell false Edward, the supposed king, that Lewis of France is sending our maskers to rule it with him and his new bride. King, is Lewis so braw, belike he thinks me Henry. But what said Lady Bona to my marriage? Post, these were her words, VTT read with mild disdain. Tell him in hope he'll prow a widower shortly. I'll wear the willow garland for his sake. King, I blame not her, she could say little less. She had the wrong, but what said Henry's queen? For I heard that she was there in place. Post, tell him, quoth she, my morning weeds are done, and I am ready to put armour on. King, belike she minds to play the Amazon. But what said Warwick to these ineries? Post, he more incensed against your majesty than all the rest, discharged me with these words. Tell him from me that he hath done me wrong, and therefore I'll bien crown him, ert be long. King, ha, durst the traitor breath out so proud words? Well, I will arm me, being thus forewarned. They shall haul wars and pay for their presumption. But say, is Warwick friends with Margaret? Post, I gracious sour rainy. They are so linked in friendship that young Prince Edward marries Warwick's daughter. Clarence belike the elder. Clarence will whore the younger. Now brother King, farewell, and sit you fast, for I will hence to Warwick's other daughter, that though I want a kingdom, yet in marriage I may not prow inferior to yourself. You that allow me and Warwick follow me. Exit Clarence and Somerset follows. Rich not I. My thoughts I'm at a further matter. I stay not for the low of Edward, but the crown. King, Clarence and Somerset both gone to Warwick. Yet am I armed against the worst can happen, and haste is needful in this desperate case. Pembroke and Stafford, you in our behalf, go Louis men and make prepare for war. They are already or quickly will be landed. Myself in person will straight follow you. Exeunt Pembroke and Stafford. But ere I go, Hastings and Mountague, resolue my doubt, you twain of all the rest, are near to Warwick by blood and by alliance. Tell me if you allow Warwick more than me. If it be so, then both depart to him. I rather wish you foes than hollow friends. But if you mind to hold your true obedience, give you me assurance with some friendly vow, that I may newer haul you in suspect. Mount, so God help Mountague as he prows. True. Hast and Hastings as he fors Edward's cause. King, now brother Richard, will you stand by Versus? Rich, I, in despite of all that shall withstand you. King, why so? Then am I sure of victory. Now therefore let Versus hence, and lose no hurry, till we meet Warwick with his foreign power. Exeunt. Enter Warwick and Oxford in England, with French soldiers. Warwick, trust me, my lord, all hitherto goes well. The common people by numbers swarm to V's. Enter Clarence and Somerset. But see where Somerset and Clarence comes. Speak suddenly, my lords, are we all friends? Clar, fear not that, my lord. Warwick, then gentle Clarence, welcome VNTO Warwick. And welcome Somerset, I hold it cowardice to rest mistrustful where a noble heart hath pawned an open hand in scene of low. Else might I think that Clarence, Edward's brother, were but a feigned friend to our proceedings. But welcome, sweet Clarence, my daughter shall be thine. And now what rests, but in night's courture, thy brother being carelessly encamped, his soldiers lurking in the town about, and but attended by a simple guard, we may surprise and take him at our pleasure. Our scouts have found the adventure very easy, that as Velisses and stout Diomed, with sleight and manhood stole to Ressus tents, and brought from thence the Thracian fatal steeds. So we, well cowered with the knight's black mantle, at Venawers may beat down Edward's guard, and seize himself, I say not slaughter him, for I intend but onely to surprise him. You that will follow me to this attempt, applaud the name of Henry with your leader. They all cry Henry. Why then, let's on our way in silent sort. For Warwick and his friends, guard and St. George. Exeunt. Enter 3 watchmen to guard the king's tent. 1 watch, come on my masters, each man take his stand. The king by this is set him down to sleep. 2. Watch, what will he not to bed? 1. Watch, why no, for he hath made a solemnly vow, newer to lie and take his natural rest, till Warwick or himself be quite suppressed. 2. Watch, tomorrow then belike shall be the day, if Warwick be so near as men report. 3. Watch, but say I pray what noble man is that with the king here resteth in his tent? 1. Watch, 'tis the Lord Hastings, the king's chiefest. 3. Watch, oh is it so, but why commands the king that his chief followers lodge in towns about him, while he himself keeps in the cold field? 2. Watch, 'tis the more honour because more dangerous. 3. Watch, I but giu me worship and quietness, I like it better than a dangerous honour. If Warwick knew in what a state he stands, 'tis to be doubted if he would waken H-watch, unless our halberds did shut VP his passage. 2. Watch, I wherefore else guard we his royal tent but to defend his person from night foes? Enter Warwick, Clarence, Oxford, Somerset and French soldiers, silent all. Warwer, this is his tent, and see where stand his guard. Courage, my masters, honour now or newer, but follow me and Edward shall be ours. 1. Watch, who goes there? 2. Watch, stay or thou diest. Warwick and the rest cry all, Warwick, Warwick, and set Vipan. The guard who fly crying arm, arm, Warwick and the rest, following them. The drum playing and trumpet sounding. Enter Warwick, Somerset and the rest, bringing the king out in his gown, sitting in a chair. Richard and Hastings flies out the stage. Soame, what are they that fly there? Warwer, Richard and Hastings, let them go, here is the Duke. K. Edward the Duke. Why, Warwick, when we parted, thou calledst me king. Warwer, I but the case is altered. When you discracked me in my embassade, then I degraded you from being king, and come now to create you Duke of York. Alas, how should you govern any kingdom that know not how to vsc ambassadors, nor how to be contented with one wife, nor how to vsc your brothers brotherly, nor how to study for the people's welfare, nor how to shroud yourself from enemies? K. Edward, yea, brother of Clarence, art thou here too? Nay, then I see that Edward needs must down. Yet Warwick, in despite of all mischance, of thee thyself and all thy complices, Edward will always bear himself as king. Though fortune's malice o'erthrow my state, my mind exceeds the compass of her wheel. Warwer, then for his mind be Edward England's king. Takes off his crown, but Henry now shall wear the English crown, and be true king indeed, thou but the shadow. My lord of Somerset at my request, see that forthwith Duke Edward be canoed. VNTO my brother Archbishop of York, when I have fought with Pembroke and his fellows, I'll follow you and tell what answer Lewis and the Lady Bona send to him. Now for a while farewell, good Duke of York. They lead him out forcibly. K. Ed, what fates impose that men must needs abide? It boots not to resist both wind and tide. Exeunt. Ox, what now remains, my lords, for verses to do, but march to London with our soldiers? War, aye, that's the first thing that we ought to do, to free King Henry from imprisonment, and see him seated in the regal throne. Enter Reuers and Lady Grey. Reu, madam, what makes you in this sudden change? Grey, why, brother Reuers, are you yet to learn what late misfortune is befalne King Edward? Reu, what loss of some pitched battle against Warwick? Grey, no, but the loss of his own royal person. Reu, then is my sour Rainy slain? Grey, I almost slain, for he is taken prisoner, either betrayed by falsehood of his guard, or by his foe surprised at Vienawers. And as I further haw to Vien durstand, is new committed to the Bishop of York. Fell Warwick's brother, and by that our foe. Real, these news I must confess are full of grief. Yet gracious madam, bear it as you may. Warwick may loose that now hath won the day. Grey, till then, fair hope must hinder Liu's decay. And I the rather wane me from despair. For Low of Edward's offspring in my womb. This is it that makes me bridle passion, and bear with mildness my misfortune's cross. I for this I draw in many a tear, and stop the rising of blood-sucking sighs, least with my sighs or tears I blast or drown King Edward's fruit, true heir to th English crown. Rew, but madam, where is Warwick then become? Grey, I'm informed that he comes towards London, to set the crown once more on Henry's head. Guess thou the rest, King Edward's friends must down, but to preeunt the tyrant's violence. For trust not him that hath once broken faith. I'll henceforthwith viento the sanctuary, to saw at least the heir of Edward's right. There shall I rest secure from force and fraud. Come therefore let verses fly, while we may fly. If Warwick take these we are sure to die. Exeunt. Enter Richard, Lord Hastings and Sir William Stanley. Rich, now my Lord Hastings and Sir William Stanley. Lo oft to wonder why I drew you hither, into this chiefest thicket of the park. Thus stand the case, you know our king my brother is prisoner to the bishop here, at whose hands he hath good visage and great liberty, and often but attended with weak guard, come hunting this way to disport himself. I horrid wertised him by secret means, that if about this hour he make this way, viender the colour of his visual game, he shall here find his friends with horse and men, to set him free from his captivity. Enter King Edward and a huntsman with him. Huntsman, this way my lord, for this way lies the game. King Edward, nay this way man. See where the huntsmen stand. Now brother of Gloucester, Lord Hastings and the rest, stand you thus close to steal the bishop's deer. Rich, brother, the time in case requireth hast. Your horse stands ready at the park corner. King Ed, but whether shall we then hast to Lynn my lord, and shipped from thence to Flanders? Rich, well guessed believe me, for that was my meaning. K. Ed, Stanley, I will requite thy forwardness. Rich, but wherefore stay we? 'Tis no time to talk. K. Ed, huntsman, what sayst thou? Wilt thou go along? Hunts, better do so than tarry and be hanged. Rich, come then away, let's ha no more ado. K. Ed, Bishop farewell. Shield thee from Warwick's frown, and pray that I may repossess the crown. Exeunt. Flourish, enter King Henry VI, Clarence Warwick, Somerset Young, Henry Oxford Mountague and Lieutenant. K. Hen, Lieutenant, now that guard and friends ha shaken Edward from the regal seat, and turned my captive state to liberty. My fear to hope, my sorrows viento joys. At our enlargement what are thy due fees? Lou, subjects may challenge nothing of their sarines, but if an humble prayer may preul, I then crawl pardon of your majesty. K. Hen, for what, lieutenant, for well vi sing me? Nay, be thou sure I'll well requite thy kindness, for that it made my imprisonment a pleasure. I such a pleasure as in caged birds can see you, when after many moody thoughts, at last by notes of household harmony, they quite forget their loss of liberty. But Warwick, after God, thou set'st me free, and chiefly therefore I thank God and thee. He was the author, thou the instrument, Therefore that I may conquer fortune's spite, by lewing low where fortune cannot hurt me, and that the people of this blessed land may not be punished with my thwarting stars. Warwick, although my head still wear the crown, I here resign my government to thee, for thou art fortunate in all thy deeds. Warwer, your grace hath still been famed for virtuous, and now may seem as wise as virtuous, by spying and ording fortune's malice. For few men rightly temper with the stars. Yet in this one thing let me blame your grace, for choosing me when Clarence is in place. No Warwick, thou art worthy of the sway, to whom thee hones in thy naturity, adiuged an olive branch and laurel crown, as likely to be blessed in peace and war, and therefore I yield thee my free consent. Warwer, and I choose Clarence only for protector. King, Warwick and Clarence due me both your hands. Now I in your hands, and with your hands your hearts, that no dissension hinder government. I make you both protectors of this land, while I myself will lead a private life, and in devotion spend my latter days, to sin's rebuke and my Creator's praise. Warwer, what answers Clarence to his sour rainies? Wills, that he consents if Warwick yield consent, for on thy fortune I repose myself. Warwer, why then though loth yet must I be content, we'll yoke together like a double shad, to Henry's body and supply his place, I mean in bearing weight of government, while he enjoys the honour and his ease. And Clarence, now then it is more than needful, forthwith that Edward be pronounced a traitor, and all his lands and goods confiscate. What else, and that succession be determined. Warwer, I therein Clarence shall not want his part. King, but with the first of all your chief affairs, let me entreat, for I command no more, that Margaret your queen and my son Edward be sent for to return from France with speed. For till I see them here by doubtful fear, my eye of liberty is half eclipsed. It shall be done my sour rainy withal. Speed. King, my lord of Somerset, what youth is that, of whom you seem to horse so tender care? Somers, my liege, it is young Henry, Earl of Richmond. King, come hither, England's hope, lays his hand on his head, if secret powers suggest but truth, to my dewining thoughts. This pretty lad will prow our country's bliss. His looks are full of peaceful majesty, his head by nature framed to wear a crown, his hand to wield a sceptre, and himself likely in time to bless a regal throne. Make much of him, my lords, for this is he, must help you more than you are hurt by me. Enter a post. Warwer, what news, my friend? Post, that Edward is escaped from your brother, and fled as he here since to Burgundy. Warwer, vn sorry news, but how made he escape? Post, he was canoed by Richard, Duke of Gloucester, and the Lord Hastings, who attended him, in secret ambush on the forest side, and from the bishop's huntsmen rescued him, for hunting was his daily exercise. Warwer, my brother was too careless of his charge, but let versus hence my sour rainy to pride, a salu for any sore that may betide. Exeunt. Man at Somerset, Richmond and Oxford. So, my lord, I like not of this flight of Edward's, for doubtless Burgundy will yield him help, and we shall haul more wars before it be long, as Henry's late presaging prophecy did glad my heart with hope of this young Richmond. So doth my heart misjew me in these conflicts, what may befall him to his harm and ours. Therefore, Lord Oxford, to prevent the worst, forthwith we'll send him hence to Brittany, till storms be past of Sewell enmity. Ox for if Edward repossess the crown, 'tis like that Richmond with the rest shall down. So it shall be so, he shall to Brittany. Come therefore, let's about it speedily. Exeunt. Flourish, enter Edward, Richard, Hastings and soldiers. Edward, now brother Richard, Lord Hastings and the rest. Yet thus far fortune maketh versus amends, and says that once more I shall entertain my wane state for Henry's regal crown. Well hoar we passed and now repassed the seas, and brought desired help from Burgundy. What then remains, we being thus arrewed from Rohensper Hohen before the gates of York, but that we enter as into our dukedom, rich the gates made fast. Brother, I like not this, for many men that stumble at the threshold are well foretold that danger lurks within. Edward, Tushman, abodements must not now affright versus. By fair or foul means we must enter in, for hither will our friends repair to V's. Hast, my liege, I'll knock once more to summon them. Enter on the walls the Mayor of York and his brethren. Mayor, my lords, we were forewarned of your coming, and shut the gates for safety of our cellars. For now we owe allegiance vnto Henry. Edward, but Master Mayor, if Henry be your king, yet Edward at the least is Duke of York. Mayor, true my good lord, I know you for no less. Edward, why, and I challenge nothing but my dukedom, as being well content with that alone. Rich, but when the fox hath once got in his nose, he'll soon find means to make the body follow. Hast, why, Master Mayor, why stand you in a doubt? Open the gates, we are King Henry's friends. Mayor, I say you so, the gates shall then be opened. He descends. Rich, a wise stout captain and soon persuaded. Hast, the good old man would fain that all were well. So 'twere not long of him, but being entered, I doubt not I but we shall soon persuade both him and all his brothers vnto reason. Enter the mayor and 2 aldermen. Edward, so Master Mayor, these gates must not be shut, but in the night or in the time of war. What fear not man, but yield me VP the keys. Takes his keys, for Edward will defend the town and thee, and all those friends that deign to follow me. March, enter Montgomery with drum and soldiers. Rich, brother, this is Sir Ion Montgomery, our trusty friend, unless I be deceived. Edward, welcome Sir Ion, but why come you in? Arms. Mount, to help King Edward in his time of storm, as Uri loyal subact ought to do. Edward, thanks good Montgomery, but we now forget our title to the crown, and onely claim our dukedom, till God please to send the rest. Mount, then fare you well, for I will hence again. I came to Serrow a king and not a duke. Drummer, strike VP, and let versus march away. The drum begins to march. Edward, nay stay Sir Ion a while and we'll debate by what safe means the crown may be recovered. Mount, what talk you of debating, in few words? If you let not here proclaim yourself our king, I'll low you to your fortune and be gone, to keep them back that come to succour you. Why shall we fight if you pretend no title? Rich, why brother, wherefore stand you on nice points? Edward, when we grow stronger, then we'll make our claims. Till then, 'tis wisdom to conceal our meaning. Hast, away with scrupulous wit, now arms must rule. Rich and fearless minds climb soonest vnto crowns. Brother, we will proclaim you out of hand. The bruit thereof will bring you many friends. Edward, then be it as you will, for 'tis my right. and Henry but usurps the diadem. Mount, I now my sour Rainy speaketh like himself, and now will I be Edward's champion. Hast, sound trumpet, Edward shall be here proclaimed. Come, fellow soldier, make thou proclamation. Flourish sound. Soul, Edward the Fourth, by the grace of God, King of England and France, and Lord of Ireland and sea. Mount, and whosoe'er gainsays King Edward's right, by this I challenge him to single fight. Throws down his gauntlet. All, long live Edward the Fourth. Edward, thanks bro Montgomery, and thanks VNTO you all. If fortune seru me, I'll requite this kindness. Now for this night let's harbour here in York, and when the morning sun shall race his car about the border of this horizon, wheel forward towards Warwick and his mates. For well I wot that Henry is no soldier. Ah, froward Clarence, how Ewell it beseems thee to flatter Henry and forsake thy brother. Yet as we may, we'll meet both thee and Warwick. Come on, braw soldiers, doubt not of the day, and that once gotten, doubt not of large pay. Exeunt. Flourish, enter the King, Warwick, Mountague, Clarence, Oxford and Somerset. War, what counsel, lords? Edward from Belgia, with hasty Germains and blunt Hollanders, hath passed in safety through the narrow seas, and with his troops doth march amain to London, and many giddy people flock to him. King, let's Louis men and beat him back again. Clare, a little fire is quickly trodden out, which being suffered, reuers cannot quench. War, in Warwickshire I hold true-hearted friends, not mutinous in peace, yet bold in war. Those will I muster VP, and thou, son Clarence, shalt stir a VP in Suffolk, Norfolk, and in Kent, the knights and gentlemen to come with thee. Thou, brother Mountague, in Buckingham, Northampton, and in Leicestershire shalt find men well inclined to hear what thou command'st. And thou, braw Oxford, wondrous well belued, in Oxfordshire shalt muster VP thy friends. My sour Rainy with the lowing citizens, like to his island, jeert in with the ocean, or modest Dian, circled with her nymphs, shall rest in London till we come to him. Fair lords, take low, and stand not to reply. Farewell, my sour Rainy. King, farewell, my Hector and my Troy's true hope. Clare, in scene of truth I kiss your highness' hand. King, well-minded Clarence, be thou fortunate. Mount, comfort my lord, and so I take my lo. Oxf, and thus I seal my truth and bid adieu. King, sweet Oxford and my lowing Mountague, and all at once more a happy farewell. War, farewell, sweet lords, let's meet at Coventry. Exeunt. King, here at the palace will I rest a while. Cousin of Exeter, what thinks your lordship? Methinks the power that Edward hath in field should not be able to encounter mine. Exet, the doubt is that he will seduce the rest. King, that's not my fear, my meed hath got me fame. I haw not stopped mine ears to their demands, nor posted off their sweets with slow delays. My pity hath been balmy to heal their wounds. My mildness hath allayed their swelling griefs. My mercy dried their water-flowing tears. I haw not been desirous of their wealth, nor much oppressed them with great subsidies, nor forward of ruinage though they much erred. Then why should they low Edward more than me? No Exeter these graces challenge grace. And when the lion fawns upon the lamb will newer cease to follow him. Shout within, a Lancaster, a Lancaster. Exet, hark, hark, my lord, what shouts are these? Enter Edward and his soldiers. Edward, seize on the shamefact Henry, bear him hence. and once again proclaim versus King of England. You are the fount that makes small brooks to flow. Now stops thy spring, my sea shall suck them dry, and swell so much the higher by their ebb. Hence with him to the Tower, let him not speak. Exit with King Henry. And lords, towards Coventry bend we our course, where peremptory Warwick now remains. The sun shines hot, and if we vsc delay, cold biting winter mars are hupped for hay. Rich, away betimes before his forces iron, and take the great grown traitor Venawers. Braw warriors march amain towards Coventry. Exeunt. Enter Warwick the mayor of Coventry, 2 messengers and others vpon the walls. War, where is the post that came from valiant Oxford? How far hence is thy lord, mine honest fellow? Mess 1, by this at Dunsmore marching hitherward. War, how far off is our brother Mountague? Where is the post that came from Mountague? Mess 2, by this at Daintree with a puissant troop. Enter Somerville. War, say Somerville, what says my lowing son? And by thy guess, how nigh is Clarence now? Sumru, at Southam I did low him with his forces, and do expect him here some 2 hours hence. War, then Clarence is at hand, I hear his drum. Sumru, it is not his, my lord, here Southam lies. The drum your honour hears marcheth from Warwick. War, who should that be? Belike Vienne looked for friends. Sumru, they are at hand, and you shall quickly know. March, flourish, enter Edward, Richard, and soldiers. Edward, go trumpet to the walls and sound apart. Rich, see how the surly Warwick mans the wall. War, O Vienne bid spite is sportful Edward come. Where slept our scouts, or how are they seduct? That we could hear no news of his repair. Edward, now Warwick, wilt thou ope the city gates? Speak gentle words, and humbly bend thy knee. Call Edward king, and at his hands beg mercy, and he shall pardon thee these outrages. War, nay rather, wilt thou draw thy forces hence? Confess who set thee VP, and pluck thee down. Call Warwick patron, and be penitent, and thou shalt still remain the Duke of York. Rich, I thought at least he would horsehead the king. Or did he make thee earst against his will? War, is not a dukedom, sir, a goodly gift? Rich, I by my faith for a poor earl to gie you. I'll doe thee Cerois for so good a gift. War, 'twas I that gore the kingdom to thy brother. Edward, why then 'tis mine if but by Warwick's gift. War, thou art no Atlas for so great a weight. And weakling, Warwick takes his gift again. And Henry is my king, Warwick is subiect. Edward, but Warwick's king is Edward's prisoner. And gallant Warwick, do but answer this. What is the body when the head is off? Rich, alas, that Warwick had no more forecast. But whiles he thought to steal the single 10, the king was slyly fingered from the deck. You left poor Henry at the bishop's palace, and 10-1 you lay meet him in the Tower. Edward, 'tis you and so, yet you are Warwick still. Rich, you come Warwick. Take the time, kneel down, kneel down. Nay when, strike now, or else the iron cools. War, I had rather chop this hand off at a blow, and with the other fling it at thy face, then bear so low a sail to strike to thee. Edward, sail how thou canst. Haul wind and tide thy friend. This hand, fast wound about thy coal-black hair, shall whiles thy head is warm and new cut off, write in the dust this sentence with thy blood. Wind changing Warwick now can change no more. Enter Oxford with drum and colours. War, O cheerful colours, see where Oxford comes. Oxford, Oxford for Lancaster. Rich, the gates are open, let these enter too. Edward, so other foes may set vpon our backs. Stand we in good array, for they no doubt will issue out again and bid versus battle. If not, the city being but of small defence, we'll quickly rouse the traitors in the same. War, O welcome Oxford, for we want thy help. Enter Mountague with drum and colours. Mount Mountague for Lancaster. Rich, thou and thy brother both shall buy this treason. Ewan with the dearest blood your bodies bear. Edward the harder matched the greater victory. My mind presageth happy gain and conquest. Enter Somerset with drum and colours. Somerset for Lancaster. Rich, two of thy name both Dukes of Somerset. Ha sold their lius VNTO the House of York. And thou shalt be the third, if this sword hold. Enter Clarence with drum and colours. War, and lo, where George of Clarence sweeps along, of force enough to bid his brother battle, with whom in vipright zeal to right preuils, more than the nature of a brother's low. Come Clarence come, thou wilt if Warwick call. Clara, father of Warwick, know you what this means? Look here, I throw my infamy at thee. I will not ruinate my father's house, who gore his blood to lime the stones together. And set VP Lancaster, why trowest thou Warwick? That Clarence is so harsh, so blunt VN natural, to bend the fatal instruments of war against his brother and his lawful king. Perhaps thou wilt obact my holy oath. To keep that oath were more impiety than Aoife when he sacrificed his daughter. I am so sorry for my trespass made, that to deserve well at my brother's hands, I here proclaim myself thy mortal foe. With resolution wheresoe'er I meet thee, as I will meet thee if thou stir abroad, to plague thee for thy foul misleading me. And so, proud-hearted Warwick, I defy thee, and to my brother turn my blushing cheeks. Pardon me, Edward, I will make amends. And Richard, do not frown upon my faults, for I will henceforth be no more VN constant. Edward, now welcome more and 10 times more belude than if thou newer hadst deserved our hate. Rich, welcome good Clarence, this is brother-like. Warwick, O passing traitor, period and veniest. Edward, what Warwick? Wilt thou loathe the town and fight? Or shall we beat the stones about thine ears? Warwick, alas, I am not cooped here for defence. I will away towards Barnet presently, and bid thee battle Edward if thou darst. Edward, yes Warwick, Edward dares and leads the way. Lords to the field, St. George and victory. Exeunt. March, Warwick and his company follows. Alarum and excursions, enter Edward bringing forth Warwick wounded. Edward, so lie thou there, die thou and die our fear. For Warwick was a bug that feared Vesol. Now Mountague sit fast, I seek for thee, that Warwick's bones may keep thine company. Enter. Warwick, who is nigh, come to me friend or foe, and tell me who is victor, York or Warwick. Why ask I that? My mangled body shows, my blood, my want of strength, my sick heart shows, that I must yield my body to the earth, and by my fall the conquest to my foe. Thus yields the cedar to the axe's edge, whose arms gore shelter to the princely eagle. Viender, whose shade the ramping lion slept, whose top branch outappeared isles spreading tree, and kept low shrubs from winter's powerful wind. These eyes that now are dimmed with death's black veil, have been as piercing as the midday sun, to search the secret treasons of the world. The wrinkles in my brows, now filled with blood, were lickened off to kingly sepulchres. For who lewd king but I could dig his graw? And who durst smile when Warwick bent his brow? Lo, now my glory smeared in dust and blood, my perks, my walks, my manners that I had, Ewan now forsake me, and of all my lands is nothing left me but my body's length. Why, what is pomp, rule, reine, but earth and dust? And live we how we can, yet die we must. Enter Oxford and Somerset. Soame, Warwick, wert thou as we are, we might recover all our loss again. The Queen from France hath brought a puissant power. Ewan now we heard the news, couldst thou fly? Warwer, why then I would not fly, Mountague. If thou be there, sweet brother, take my hand, and with thy lips keep in my soul a while. Thou loust me not, for brother, if thou didst, thy tears would wash this cold congealed blood that glues my lips and will not let me speak. Come quickly, Mountague, or I am dead. Soame, Warwick, Mountague hath breathed his last, and to the latest gasp cried out for Warwick, and said, commend me to my valiant brother. And more he would ha said, and more he spoke, which sounded like a cannon in a vault, that mought not be distinguished, but at last I well might hear, de leeward with a groan, O farewell, Warwick. Warwer, sweet rest his soul. Fly, lords, and saw your sellows, for Warwick bids you all farewell, to meet in Hohen. Oxf, away, away, to meet the Queen's great power. Here they bear away his body, exeunt. Flourish, enter King Edward in triumph, with Richard, Clarence, and the rest. King, thus far our fortune keeps in VP ward course, and we are gracked with wreaths of victory. But in the midst of this bright shining day, I spy a black suspicious threatening cloud, that will encounter with our glorious sun, ere he attain his easeful western bed. I mean, my lords, those powers that the Queen hath raised in Gallia, horror reewed our coast, and as we here march on to fight with Versus, Clar, a little gale will soon disperse that cloud, and blow it to the source from whence it came. Thy very beams will dry those vapours, VP, for Uri cloud engenders not a storm. Rich, the Queen is valued 30,000 strong, and Somerset with Oxford fled to her. If she ha time to breathe, be well assured, her faction will be full as strong as ours. King, we are adwertised by our lowing friends, that they do hold their course toward Tewkesbury. We hoing now the best at Barnet Field, will thither straight, for willingness rids way, and as we march our strength will be augmented. In Uri County as we go along, strike VP the drum, cry courage and away. Exeunt. Flourish, march, enter the Queen, young Edward, Somerset, Oxford and soldiers. Great lords, wise men ne'er sit and wail their loss, but cheerly seek how to redress their harms. What though the mast be now blown our board, the cable broke, the holding anchor lost, and half our sailors swallowed in the flood? Yet leaves our pilot still, ist meet that he should low the helmy, and like a fearful lad, with tearful eyes add water to the sea, and giu more strength to that which hath too much. Whiles in his moan the ship splits on the rock, which industry and courage might horse out. What a shame, what a fault with this. Say Warwick was our anchor, what of that? And Mountague our topmast, what of him? Our slaughtered friends the tackles, what of these? Why is not Oxford here another anchor, and Somerset another goodly mast? The friends of France are shrouds and tacklings, and though Vienne skilful, why not Ned and I? For once allowed the skilful pilot's charge, we will not from the helmy to sit and weep, but keep our course though the rough wind say no. From shallows and rocks that threaten these with wrack, as good to chide the walls as speak them fair. And what is Edward but a ruthless sea? What Clarence but a quicksand of deceit? And Richard but a raged fatal rock? All these the enemies to our poor bark. Say you can swim, alas, 'tis but a while. Tread on the sand, why there you quickly sink. Bestride the rock, the tide will wash you off. Or else you famish, that's a threefold death. This speak I, lords, to let you understand. If case some one of you would fly from versus, that there's no hopt for mercy with the brothers. More than with ruthless wars, with sands and rocks. Why courage then what cannot be ordered? 'Twere childish weakness to lament or fear. Prince, methinks a woman of this valiant spirit should, if a coward heard her speak these words, infuse his breast with magnanimity, and make him naked foil a man at arms. I speak not this as doubting any here, for did I but suspect a fearful man, he should haul low to go away betimes, lest in our need he might infect another, and make him of like spirit to himself. If any such be here, as God forbid, let him depart before we need his help. Ox, women and children of so high a courage, and warriors faint, why 'twere perpetual shame. O braw young prince, thy famous grandfather doth liu agin in thee, long mayst he thou liu, to bear his image and renew his glories. So, and he that will not fight for such a hope, go home to bed and like the owl by day. If he arise, be mocked and wondered at. Thanks, gentle Somerset, sweet Oxford, thanks, Prince, and take his thanks that yet hath nothing else. Enter a messenger. Mess, prepare you, lords, for Edward is at hand. Ready to fight, therefore be resolute. Ox, I thought no less, it is his policy to haste thus fast, to find vis emproided. So, but he's deceived, we are in readiness. This cheers my heart to see your forwardness. Ox, here pitch our battle, hence we will not budge. Flourish and march, enter Edward, Richard, Clarence and soldiers. Edward, braw followers, yonder stands the thorny wood, which by the Hohen's assistance and your strength must by the roots be hewn yet ere night. I need not add more fuel to your fire, for well I wot ye blaze to burn them out. You signal to the fight, and to it, lords. Lords, knights, and gentlemen, what I should say, my tears gainsay, for every word I speak. Ye see I drink the water of my eye. Therefore no more but this, Henry your sour Rainy is prisoner to the foe, his state usurped, his realm a slaughterhouse, his subject slain, his statutes cancelled and his treasure spent. And yonder is the wolf that makes this spoil. You fight in Eostis, then in God's name, lords, be valiant, and you signal to the fight. Alarum, retreat, excursions, exeunt. Flourish, enter Edward, Richard, Queen, Clarence, Oxford, Somerset. Edward, now here a period of tumultuous broils. Away with Oxford to Hames Castle straight. For Somerset off with his guilty head. Go bear them hence, I will not hear them speak. Ox, for my part I'll not trouble thee with words. So, nor I but stoop with patience to my fortune. Exeunt. So part we sadly in this troublous world, to meet with I in sweet Jerusalem. Edward, is proclamation made that who finds Edward shall have a high reward, and he his life. Rich it is, and lo where youthful Edward comes. Enter the prince. Edward, bring forth the gallant, let versus hear him speak. What can so young a thorn begin to prick? Edward, what satisfaction canst thou make for bearing arms, for stirring my subjects, and all the trouble thou hast turned me to? Prince, speak like a subject proud, ambitious York. Suppose that I am now my father's mouth. Resign thy chair, and where I stand kneel thou, whilst I propose the self-same words to thee. Which traitor thou wouldst haw me answer to? That thy father had been so resolute, rich that you might still haw worn the petticoat, and near haw Stalney the breach from Lancaster. Prince, let Aesop fable in a winter's night. His currish riddles sort not with this place. Rich by Hohen brat, I'll plague ye for that word. Thou wast born to be a plague to men. Rich, for God's sake, take away this cap to you scold. Prince, nay, take away this scolding crook baccy, rather. Edward, peace wilful boy, or I will charm your tongue. Clar, vien tutored lad, thou art too malapert. Prince, I know my duty, you are all vien dutiful. Lascivious Edward, and thou period George. And thou misshapen Dick, I tell ye all. I am your better traitors as ye are. And thou usurpst my father's right and mine. Edward, take that, the likeness of this railer here. Stabs him. Rich Sprolsty thou, take that to end thy agony. Rich stabs him. Clar, and those for twitting me with Piriuri. Clar stabs him. Kill me too. Rich merry and shall. Offers to kill her. Edward, hold Richard, hold, for we ha' done too much. Rich, why should she leave you to fill the world with words? Edward, what doth she swown, vse means for her? Recowery. Rich, Clarence, excuse me to the king my brother. I'll hence to London on a serious matter. Ere ye come there, be sure to hear some news. Clar, what? Rich, tower the tower. Enter. Ned, sweet Ned, speak to thy mother, boy. Canst thou not speak, O traitors, murderers? They that stabbed CSR shed no blood at all, did not offend, nor were not worthy blame. If this foul deed were by to equal it, he was a man, this in respect a child. And men ne'er spend their fury on a child. What's worse than murderer, that I may name it? No, my heart will burst, and if I speak, and I will speak that so my heart may burst. Butchers and villains, blowdy cannibals, how sweet a plant haw you vien timely cropped. You haw no children, butchers, if you had. The thought of them would haw stirred VP remorse. But if you a chance to haw a child, look in his youth to haw him so cut off. As deathsmen you haw rid this sweet young prince. King, away with her, go bear her hence perforce. Nay, newer bear me hence, dispatch me here. Here sheath thy sword, I'll pardon thee my death. What, wilt thou not? Then Clarence do it thou. Clar, by Hohen, I will not do thee so much ease. Good Clarence do, sweet Clarence do thou do it. Clar, didst thou not hear me swear I would not do it? But thou visest to forswear thyself. 'Twas sin before, but now 'tis charity. What wilt, why not? Where is that deal's butcher Richard? Hard forward Richard, Richard, where art thou? Thou art not here, murder is thy almost deed. Petitioners for blood, thou ne'er putst thee baccy. Ed, away I say, I charge ye bear her hence. So come to you and yours as to this prince. Exit Queen. Ed, where's Richard gone? Clar, to London all in post, and as I guess, to make a bloody supper in the Tower. Ed, he's sardine if a thing comes in his head. Now march we hence, discharge the common sort, with pay and thanks, and let's away to London, and see our gentle queen how well she fares. By this I hope she hath a son for me. Enter Henry the Sixth, and Richard with the lieutenant on the walls. Rich, good day my lord, what at your book so hard? Hen, I my lord I should say rather. 'Tis sin to flatter, good was little better. Good Gloucester and good Duel were alike, and both preposterous, therefore not good lord. Rich, Sirrah, low verses to Arcellus we must conferra. Hen, so flies the reckless shepherd from wolf. So first the harmless sheep doth yield his fleece, and next his throat, vnto the butcher's knife. What scene of death hath Roscius now to acty? Rich, suspicion always haunts the guilty mind. The thief doth fear each bush an officer. Hen, the bird that hath been limed in a bush, with trembling wings misdoubteth Uri bush. And I the hapless male to one sweet bird. Or now the fatal obecht in my eye, where my poor young was limbed, was caught and killed. Rich, why what a peewish fool was that of Crete, that taught his son the office of a fowl, and yet for all his wings the fool was drowned. Hen, I Daedalus my poor boy Icarus, thy father Minos that denied our course, the son that seared the wings of my sweet boy, thy brother Edward and thyself the sea, whose Inuius gulf did swallow vp his life. Ah, kill me with thy weapon, not with words. My breast can better brook thy dagger's point, then can my ears that tragic history. But wherefore dost thou come? Is't for my life? Rich, think'st thou I am an executioner? Hen, a persecutor I am sure thou art. If murthering innocents be executing, why then thou art an executioner. Rich, thy son I killed for his presumption. Hen, hadst thou been killed when first why didst presume? Thou hadst not lewd to kill a son of mine. And thus I prophesy that many a thousand, which now mistrust no parcel of my fear, and many an old man's sigh, and many a widow's, and many an orphan's water standing eye, men for their sons, weeus for their husbands, orphans for their parents' timel's death, shall rue the hour that ewer thou wast born. The owl shrieked at thy birth, and Ewell seen. The night crow cried, aboding luckless time. Dogs howled, and hideous tempest shook down trees. The rowan rooked her on the chimney's top, and chattering pies in dismal discord sung. Thy mother felt more than a mother's pain, and yet brought forth less than a mother's hope. To wit, an indigested and deformed lump, not like the fruit of such a goodly tree. Teeth hadst thou in thy head when thou wast born, to signify thou cam'st to bite the world. And if the rest be true which I heard, thou cam'st. Rich, I'll hear no more. Die prophet in thy speech. Stabs him. For this amongst the rest was I ordained. Hen, I and for much more slaughter after this. O God, forgive you my sins and pardon thee. Dies. Rich, what will the aspiring blood of Lancaster sink in the ground? I thought it would whole mounted. See how my sword weeps for the poor king's death. O may such purple tears be always shed from those that wish the downfall of our house. If any spark of life be yet remaining, down, down to hell, and say I sent thee thither. Stabs him again. I that whore neither pity, low, nor fear. Indeed, 'tis true that Henry told me of, for I whore often heard my mother say, I came into the world with my legges forward. Had I not reason, think ye, to make haste, and seek their ruin that usurped our right? The midwife wondered, and the women cried, O Isus bless these, he is born with teeth. And so I was, which plainly signified that I should snarl and bite and play the dog. Then since the hounds horse shapped my body so, let hell make crooked my mind to answer it. I whore no brother, I am like no brother. And this word low which greybeards call Dewine, be resident in men like one another, and not in me, I am myself alone. Clarence, beware, thou keep'st me from the light. But I will sort a pitchy day for thee, for I will buzz abroad such prophesies, that Edward shall be fearful of his life, and then to purge his fear I'll be thy death. King Henry and the prince his son are gone. Clarence thy turn is next, and then the rest. Counting myself but bad till I be best, I'll throw thy body in another room, and triumph Henry in thy day of doom. Enter. Flourish, enter King, Queen, Clarence, Richard, Hastings, nurse, and attendants. King, once more we sit in England's royal throne, repurchased with the blood of enemies. What valiant foemen like to autumn's corn, hoar we mowed down in tops of all their pride. 3 Dukes of Somerset, threefold renown, for hardy and undoubted champions. 2 Cliffords as the father and the son, and 2 Northumberlands, 2 Brower men. Near spurred their coursers at the trumpet's sound. With them the 2 broad bears, Warwick and Montague, that in their chains fettered the kingly lion, and made the forest tremble when they roared. Thus hoar we swept suspicion from our seat, and made our footstool of security. Come hither, Bess, and let me kiss my boy. Young Ned, for thee, thine Viancicles, and myself, hoar in our armours watched the winter's night, went all afoot in summer's scalding heat, that thou mightst repossess the crown in peace, and of our labours thou shalt reap the gain. Rich, I'll blast his harroust if your head were laid, for yet I am not looked on in the world. This shoulder was ordained so thick, to hoe, and hoe it shall some weight or break my baccy. Work thou the way, and that shalt execute. King, Clarence and Gloucester, low my lowly queen, and kiss your princely nephew brothers both. Cla, the duty that I owe vnto your majesty, I seal vipon the lips of this sweet babe. Cla, thank noble Clarence, worthy brother, thanks. Rich, and that I low the tree fro whence why sprangst. Witness the lowing kiss I gie you the fruit. To say the truth, so Eudes kissed his master, and cried all hail, when as he meant all harm. King, now am I seated as my soul delights, hoying my country's peace and brothers' lows. Cla, what will your grace ha done with Margaret? Reynard her father to the King of France, hath pawned the Sicils and Jerusalem, and hither ha they sent it for her ransom. King, away with her and waft her hence to France. And now what rests but that we spend the time with stately triumphs, mirthful comic shows, such as befits the pleasure of the court. Sound drums and trumpets, farewell so or annoy, for here I hope begins our lasting age. Exeunt omnes. Finis.